This is the Mountainside Podcast, and joining us all the way from Washington State is Sara Gamache. She's immersed herself in the outdoors community and has hunted all over the world. We are fortunate enough today to get to spend some time at the 3D archery range before hopping in studio here. It was very humbling on the course. She's an incredible shot. We had an absolute blast on the range and in the studio, and I hope that you enjoy our conversation. Here we are. Just shot 20 targets at American Bowman. Cheers. What an awesome morning.
Mm-hmm. Perfect way
I
to
guess
start
it's
the day.
afternoon now, right?
It is, yeah. We shot for a couple hours.
Yeah, no, it was awesome.
Went by fast.
Yeah, it always goes by way too fast up there. I'm like, oh yeah, an hour will be good. When I'm so used to going by myself.
Yeah.
Plus, we added another shooter, unexpected. Shout out Scott Andrich. So glad he was up there, though. I love that dude.
Yeah, it was good to see him.
And yeah, it was great because he always keeps score, so I don't have to keep score.
That's always nice. Yeah, I hate keeping score.
And I typically outshoot him, so that's always a good person to take up there.
He had his recurve, so we got to be fair.
Right. I don't know what the hell I was thinking inviting you up there. I had such a fun time with you today. It was very humbling, though. Like, you shot a 190 today?
Yeah, close, yeah.
That's fucking impressive. And you had to put a whole new sight tape on. Like, we were scrambling to, like, sight your bow.
I resighted my whole bow in 5 minutes. Yeah,
it was wild.
But I know that that's what I have to do when I come here. Like I said, changing elevation like that. So changing out a sight tape isn't a huge deal, you know.
Yeah.
It worked out fine.
Yeah, well, you got it dialed in. That's for damn sure. You smoked me.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
It was a lot of fun. I try to go up there as much as I can in the morning. So like I always plan on an hour per side. Mm-hmm. And if I'm not shooting in under an hour per side, I'm slacking, right? I'm going too slow between the targets. So when I go up there for a little bit of exercise too. And
yeah.
There's definitely a lot of ups and downs.
And it's peaceful out there. We were talking about that. See, I've only shot that course for the best of the best shoot, and that is a rowdy shoot, and there's big groups of people, and everyone kind of gets bunched up at targets. So being out there with just a couple of us was really nice. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I honestly don't like being around people, and it's funny because my entire industry has been around the largest crowds you could imagine, being the most crazy, right?
Yeah.
In a rock concert setting. So I really enjoy like those peaceful times, and I always just go up there. That's honestly why I don't go to mini shoots. Like my kids like going to them.
Yeah.
I'm not good enough, obviously, to compete.
Oh, you're there. You weren't that far behind me.
So I'm basically just throwing money away. I think I only lost one arrow today, but yeah, no, it's for the camaraderie. That's a great group of people, like Aaron, Luke.
Yeah.
Tom Klum. I don't know who else is showing up to that thing, but it's the who's who.
A lot of the same
yourself.
people have came, yeah, and people come from all over the country. You know, we're coming from Washington, and there's people coming. Someone comes from Maine every year, so everyone's kind of spread out. So it's kind of like a little reunion now. We've all kind of gone for the past 3 years, so it's good to see everyone every year.
Yeah, it didn't happen this year, unfortunately, right?
This
is the 1 year I was thinking about actually shooting it.
Well, that's why I'm glad that I'm here and got to shoot it, because I was pretty disappointed when they canceled that, but kind of saw it coming. But they'll do it next year.
Yeah, thanks for coming out all the way from Washington.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's happening in Washington right now? Are you guys have any spring hunting at all?
Not there very often. Gosh, I've been traveling so much, but they took away our spring bear hunting a couple years ago, so we do not have that, which Colorado, you guys kind of know how that goes, that battle that we're constantly up against. We're dealing with the same stuff in Washington. Turkey season. I'm not a big turkey hunter, so I haven't gone out for that. So my last hunt was Hawaii. I just got back from Hawaii.
Oh, wow. Lanai or?
Maui.
Okay.
Yeah.
Access deer?
Access deer, yeah.
Awesome.
One of my favorite hunts of the year. I did it last year too, and it's a blast because it's a target-rich environment. It's spot and stock. I took my compound and my recurve, and it's just nonstop all-day action. I mean, we get out there at 5 a.m. We hunt till dark, and you're doing 15, 20 stalks a day.
Really?
Yeah, you can't ask for much better than that when it comes to action-packed day of hunting.
That's a bucket list for me, honestly. I mean, you and I were out talking on the range a little bit earlier today, and you're getting ready to go to Africa on an epic hunt. We're going to get into heavily here in a minute because I need to know what you're doing to prepare for that. I mean, it's insane. But I hardly ever leave Colorado because I only get like typically a couple weeks a year just because I'm trying to pursue this. And then I have a family and the kids are busy with sports in the fall. Like the fall is the absolute worst time of year for me, but it's my favorite time of year at the same time because we have football games and, you know, with the kids and then bow hunting. And then it's my biggest entertainment job of the year I do is always in September. I'm like, God, that's the one thing.
Pretty action packed. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a lot of travel and a lot of like back and forth. And then there's typically like I found there's a ton of fights that happen that with people that I'm related with through the podcast or whatever. Like I was always trying to go support. So I'm going to those. It's so much fun, man. Like September is like become one of my favorite months of all time.
Yeah. Mine
but
too.
yeah, Hawaii is definitely on the list of a bucket list of like where I would consider going out of state. And I've tried access deer, but I've never hunted one. So
yeah, the meat is great, and
it's
that's
incredible.
What's nice is that you aren't
you can
going
bring
during
it
the
home
fall.
Too,
yeah,
right?
So it's in the off season. You know, like I just got back, so I went the beginning of May, and I've gone later in the year as well. And then taking the meat home is really not that hard. I took 2 bucks and a doe, and I donated some of it. Part of the people that I go with have a nonprofit organization, and so all the money that I pay them is actually getting donated, and it goes to help feed the locals.
Really?
And then I actually donate all my front quarters of all the deer that I shoot. Also goes to the donations. But I still brought back quite a bit of meat. I think I had 2 suitcases that were like 70 pounds each, and you just cut it off the bone, freeze it in, you know, the big gallon freezer bags, make sure it's completely frozen. And at least for me going back to Washington, that's about a 5.5 hour flight, and that's totally
you're not
fine.
Going across the country.
Right. And it stays cold enough down where they store the luggage that by the time you get home, your meat's still frozen.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I guess I've done a few. Like I did a bison here last year, and it was an experiment through CU Boulder. And I was working in Chicago, and I totally like walked off the job. I was like, I'm going to do this because I have this opportunity. And I brought bison back with me to Chicago, and it was, you know, I just froze it the night before, and I even had a layover. And by the time I got there, it was still like rock solid. But I brought some like fresh backstrap to some of the crew I was working with, and these people don't hunt, you know. So like tasting that and sharing it, you get so much gratification. They're like blown away. They're like,
I'm sure.
Most of these people for fun go to Disneyland with their families, right? So it's like, you're going to do what?
Like, who the hell are you?
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
So they don't get it. But so anyway, that I think it's so good for, as a hunter too, it just gives it a good face and a good meaning, because I think people can connect with it and understand it more.
For sure.
Especially when they taste it. They're like some of the kids that were in from Miami, they're not kids, they're guys my age, but like some of my friends that I've worked with for years, you know, like Cubano, just not ghetto, but they are ghetto, you know what I mean? Like, not to put them in a box. Like, I've had them on the podcast, you know, shout out to Joel, but it's so funny because he was just like ecstatic. Like, he's never tried anything like that outside of, like, you know, he born and raised in Miami,
in the
like
city,
in the city. He's like, wait a minute, bro. He's like, you went and did this and you brought it back? He was like totally shocked. So
that's cool.
You know, I think I might have recruited him to be a new hunter. He's like, so you just go out there with a bow? And I'm like, yeah, pretty much. Like, it's kind of, it's not that easy, but yeah. But well, cool. And then like, even just before this, you brought some jalapenos.
Cheddar Smokies.
Yeah. Smokies. Elk.
Love sharing
deer,
those. Yeah, elk.
Whitetail.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That was
Good,
incredible.
huh? I know. I travel with those, and I give them to people that, you know, like, try this, you know, and you can't go wrong with those. Anyone's going to like those. Those are pretty good.
Hell yeah. And it's so much better than going to the grocery store and trying to buy some meat off the shelf that honestly, you don't know how old it is, what it's been through. Like,
hormones and all the other crap that's in it. Oh yeah. I mean, that's the first thing I tell people when they ask why I hunt, because I don't want to buy meat from the store. And when we don't, I mean, we might buy chicken, but we red meat 90% of the time. And it was funny because someone at my husband's work had like butchered a grass-fed cow, and he was giving some of the meat out to the guys, and my husband brought some steaks home, and we didn't tell the kids. They're used to eating game meat every night, but we cooked it and we sat down to eat. My daughter took her first bite and she goes, "What is this?" And I said, "Why?" And she goes, it's disgusting. And I said, it's beef.
Really?
And they don't eat beef. They literally do not. My kids do not eat beef. And so, and it's grass fed too, which if you've had grass fed, sometimes that does have a little bit different of a taste. But she was like, do not bring me beef home ever again.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, they knew the difference right away.
That's shocking.
So, and they have a preference for wild game, which makes me really happy.
Yeah. I think they're two totally different things, right? But yeah, grass-fed beef, I found, I can appreciate it because I'm used to eating wild game so much, I think. Mm-hmm. But my favorite is grass-fed and then grain-finished.
Yeah.
Like Colorado craft beef has incredible beef, or whatever they're doing or however they're feeding, and that last little bit of cycle.
Yeah, I think the finishing really affects the taste of it.
For sure. Well, and then you get into Wagyu and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I've never been a fan of Wagyu for some reason.
Really?
Yeah, like I don't know. I just think I'd rather have. I like the texture, I guess, like to meat. Like if I want to eat something along the lines of Wagyu, I'd rather have like really high end sushi.
Oh yeah,
yeah, like some salmon or some sort of exotic fish. But I don't know. I just I'm a little bit weird when it comes to
textures and food. Yeah.
Well, I like a lot of texture, I guess, especially in meat. And yeah.
And I've had lots of different types of game meat that I'm surprised how different the texture is. Like we'll even cook up like 3 or 4 different species sometimes a night. Like we'll have access deer and elk and red stag because we go to New Zealand, you can bring that meat home. And it's crazy to see the difference in texture even in those. And
really?
Like the color of the meat, like one's more rich, more red. Yeah. So that's always fun to do. The fact that we have a freezer full of all different kind of game meat and to cook it up and try and see which one we like best is always interesting.
That's one thing I've never tried is stag, and it's something that I've always wanted to try. New Zealand's so fucking awesome too, man. What an incredible
we went there last
country.
year, and that was definitely one of our favorite trips we've ever done. Yeah, we went for 2 weeks, and I'm glad we did because usually when we travel, my husband can't get much time off work. So even when we go to Africa, we're going for like 6 days. And I'm like, this is hardly worth the travel is horrific to get there. And then you're there for 6 days and leave. So when we did New Zealand, I'm like, you have to find a way to get some time off so we can do this the right way. And he took 2 weeks off, and I'm glad he did because we did some pretty cool shit when we were there.
That's epic. Yeah. It was one of my favorite places to go in the world, and Africa as well. Like I love South Africa.
Yeah.
Like it's a little dicey in some spots, like city-wise. So like if you're a city vacation person, but if you're somebody that wants to get out and see wildlife and just like God's country, like
it's about the best
incredible.
Place to go.
Yeah. It's unbelievable.
Where did you go in New Zealand? Did you do South Island or North?
I've done both. But I'm trying to think. I'm drawing a blank on the cities because it was always on rock tour, so we were just like in and out.
Maybe Auckland. If you
it was
went to
Auckland,
North Island.
I was going to say Oslo, but that's Norway. So I was trying to think of it, but no, definitely Auckland.
Okay.
And then it was really cool. One of the bands I used to tour with was the Killers, and not really my flavor of music. I'm more of a metalhead for sure. But super nice guys, and just the schedule that I had with them was so badass. We were doing a ton of festivals, so we got to do a lot of these really like remote places where they would set up like a festival stage, and it was more about like the scene. Yeah. Because this was like kind of right after like Bonnaroo took off, and everybody saw how much money was made in that. Yeah. And even Europe and everybody followed suit, so they started doing these like festivals in front of castles, like I did. Cool. Selene Castle, and we did this awesome one way outside of Norway, like way up in the mountains, and it was on this old like World War II U.S. compound where there was all these bunkers and houses, and it was on a Viking holiday. Oh, okay. Which was insane.
Huge there,
it was super cool. It was super cool. Yeah, it was basically the holiday is I think it's remembering the dead, so it's kind of like Day of the Dead that they have, and that's a huge thing for them. So, but in the Viking culture, and it involves a lot of fire and a lot of drunk people and a lot of blue-eyed, blonde-haired people everywhere, and they just keep a campfire going all night, and it's kind of like amazing. All is welcome too. Like as reserved as that culture is, they're still like that's welcoming. The one time that it's just like anybody's welcome at your fire. Cool. So it's kind of cool. So you just start fire hopping, and it looks like there's a forest fire going on. I mean, the sky is just orange.
Wow.
And then those backdrops are, it's like Glacier National Park type backdrops when you get up into the real mountains of Norway. It's unbelievable.
What can you hunt there? Is there anything to hunt in Norway?
I was just thinking that. Derek, you might have to Google this because Europe's weird. You've hunted all over the world. Have you hunted much in Scotland?
I hunted in Scotland, and you cannot bow hunt in Scotland, and it really pissed me off. I had to rifle hunt. Yeah.
Is it because they think it's unethical?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Really?
Isn't that crazy? And I'm a better shot with my damn bow than I am a gun. So I'm like, you'd rather have me hunt with a bow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would argue that opinion for anybody that's listening to this that maybe doesn't have hunting experience. I think a bow is much more ethical. Like, if I was going to choose my own death, right? And it was between a gun and a bow, and obviously you'd want a solid shooter, like somebody.
Yeah, it depends who's behind the trigger.
Like, I would hire you to shoot me, not myself, right? After today, with this many, I want a 12 ring, right? Like, I want a heart shot.
Yeah.
But I think I would take the bow over the
really?
Gun. Yeah. I don't know why. I think it's just like the shock factor of the gun. Like, everything is happening so fast. And I don't think you can explain this unless you're a hunter. Like, the reason why I don't hunt with a rifle anymore, and I'm no pro hunter, but this is just personal preference. It's like, when you shoot those animals, there's like a shock factor. That's like, even if they drop right away, it's like, what in the fuck, right? It's like, adrenaline goes through them. You can see it in their face. You can see it in their body language. Where a lot of times with my bow, it's so quiet. It's so peaceful. It's so intimate. That's because you're so much closer. And, I've hit animals and they're kind of like, at first, like, what the hell? And then they run off. Or sometimes it's just a quick run. They don't go very far, hopefully. Right?
Yeah, that's always ideal.
And then I've had an experience where an animal didn't even know what hit it, and it just went back to grazing. And then
crazy.
I was like, did I hit it? And then it fell over, right? So and I'm not the only one with that story. Like, I know multiple hunters that have told me that same sort of story. So, like, if you don't hit a bone or something, I mean, it's a razor sharp broadhead and clean pass through. And, it was funny. This week I was staying down in town because I was doing a job down there on the entertainment side. So I had a hotel room and I didn't have much time in between. I had a little bit of time in the mornings, and Rocky Mountain Arsenal is not far from where I was staying. So I don't know if you've ever been out there. It's a wildlife reserve. No. You can't hunt on it.
Okay.
But they have like free range bison.
Okay.
They have some of the biggest deer muleys you've ever seen with some of the craziest antlers. Like, it's a photographer's dream.
Okay.
And you can drive through the whole thing. They have antelope out there. There's coyotes, ton of eagles, and like, it's beautiful. And they have a little archery range. And I was like, I'm just going to go to the archery range. I want to be outside. I was working inside. So I pull up with my bow. I was all excited, like, came up here, drove all the way up here to get my bow, go out to the outdoor range, and, like the big white bags that we were shooting at today, knock my first arrow. They had targets out to 60 yards. I was like, sweet. And I just figured it was one of those style of targets. I didn't realize it was just hay bales that they had put inside of a white bag.
Okay.
So my arrow blew right through it. And thank God the range was set up safely because it ended up in the backstop. But like, it just ruined my day. It like ruined my arrow, because it just peeled all the fletching off of it. And even I have a hard time, like some of the ranges that I go to, like even at American Bowman, if I shoot in the middle of those targets because they're so shot up, it'll just bury to the fletch because I have like 600 grain arrows and then my draw length and
you got
and it's
good penetration.
Yeah, it's crazy how much how powerful an arrow is actually, right?
Yeah.
So back to the ethics thing. I don't understand that. I just feel like it's way more ethical to hunt with a bow than it is.
Especially these days
rifle.
with the technology coming out and how well these bows are made and how fast they are. I mean, maybe back in the day, I could see a little bit of an argument, but and there's so many more resources out there now for people to become good shooters.
Yes.
You know, look at the resources we have now with social media and YouTube and people, you know, like John Dudley or Cameron Haynes or, you know, like my
Joel Turner.
my personal
Tom
coach,
Clum,
Joel
yeah.
Turner, Tom Clum. You have these guys that are so readily available, and I think they've just really allowed people to become more ethical shooters.
Oh,
you know,
they've
kind of raised the bar for the standards in archery and hunting.
Oh, Tom has made me 10 times the shooter than I was before because I used to just punch a trigger. That's what I've done since well, when I first started, I was shooting a compound with fingers when I was like 10 years old. Like that was a thing back then.
Some people still do.
Like releases weren't a thing even back then, I don't think.
Right.
Like, I don't know. I'm kind of dating myself, but that was really, I mean, I did that forever.
Yeah.
Like all the way up till high school, I think is when I got my first release. So what do we got here that we can hunt? Where were we looking?
Norway.
Oh, Norway.
So moose and, reindeer. We should have known that one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Hunting here is April.
Caribou would be
March.
badass. Is it reindeer the same thing as a caribou, right?
I think I think pretty much so. All right. Well, see, I'm like all about, I used to just do vacations to vacation back in the day, but now I'm like, you know, I'm not going anywhere unless I can kill something.
Can you hunt with a bow in Norway? Maybe.
Yeah, that would be the next question.
Yeah.
I doubt it.
It's probably. What is like the tag process that you had to go through to hunt in Scotland? Was it?
There wasn't any really, you know, it's kind of like Africa where you find your outfitter and they take care of everything.
So it's got to be a guided trip.
Yeah, we went with a guide.
Yeah.
That was
when you're going that
trip.
far, it's almost like I would highly recommend that's the only way to go. And some places mandate that you go with a guide, right? Depending on certain hunts
and species and all that. And what's crazy about Scotland is they have like what's called the right to roam, where like you own property, but it's not like private. So so we were like walking like through people's places, and I was like, is this okay? And he's like, oh yeah, right to roam. And I was like, if we did this in the States, like people would be coming out with guns, you
especially
know,
in
like
Texas
get the fuck off my property, you know. And they're like, no, not around here. And I'm like, okay, like so. It was.
So can you shoot an animal on their property as well?
I don't know about that, but you can definitely walk through and people don't even bat an eye, you know, like just strangers going through your property and they're okay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I like hunting in different cultures and learning stuff like that and learning their hunting traditions and how it all works. That's part of what I enjoy about traveling abroad, you know.
I just think people's perspective around the world has changed so much in the last 150 years. Like, I don't think that people realize if it wasn't for hunting and their lineage, they wouldn't be here.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it's only a few hundred years that where they've started to do like hunting bans in certain spots and stuff like that. But even Scotland and Europe and all that sort of stuff, I mean, that's where primitive man came from, you know? So I just don't understand why it's so bastardized.
Yeah, it would be nice. It would be nice if that could change, but who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know how long it's been that way, but yeah, I was kind of, and I traveled with my gun there too. I took my own gun, and I was meeting people there. So the people I was hunting with.
How was that going through? Like,
well, it was crazy because I guess you're not supposed to walk around with a gun. It was in a case, obviously, but like I got through the airport, but then I had to get to the Airbnb and I had to take all these buses. And someone figured out that it was a very obvious gun case. And they're like, is that a gun in there? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, you cannot just be walking around with a gun. And I was like, well, I don't know how I'm supposed to get to my Airbnb. So I was like trying to be like all sly, you know, so I wouldn't get in trouble. And like I said, I was by myself. I had all my luggage and then this giant gun case and trying to navigate on these different buses to get where I was going. And then I finally got to the Airbnb and joined up with the people I was with to go hunting. But it was quite the adventure.
Wow.
Getting there. I don't think I would take my own. Part of why I took is because we were doing like some footage for the optics company that gave us the scope for it. It was like kind of part of a TV show thing at the time. So that was why I had to bring my own gun. But otherwise, it's so much easier just to shoot what the guides have. If they offer
Sure.
to let you shoot something they have, just do that. It's
Yeah,
so
I mean,
much
a
easier.
lot of people don't realize like guns are pretty much illegal around the world unless you live in America. I mean, for the
Right.
most part, like there's not very many places. And you know what's frightening about that is all the bad guys have them. Like when
Right.
you go to Rio, you cannot have a gun. Well, maybe you can have a gun. I think but you can't have up to a military grade gun. So it's a certain caliber. So like 9mm is not even legal, but then there's guys running around with 9mm Uzis.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like we had a friend that got robbed on Copacabana Beach in a cab, and two guys on motorcycles just rolled up on the cab,
On either side, yeah.
Uzis in the back, and like took everything but his boxer shorts. I'm
Jeez.
surprised they didn't take those. And then they
Yeah.
just went to the next car. It was just like a traffic jam, you know?
Yeah, that's the only thing I don't like about traveling internet. Now, if I'm with my husband, I don't have to worry about that, but he doesn't get to come on very many trips with me. And I feel like naked without my gun because when I'm at home, my gun is on me at all times.
Yeah.
At all times. And even when, like, being here, I don't have my gun on me. That feels a little weird, but I'm in a safe place. You know, I'm in Colorado, but going, like, I've gone to Africa by myself a couple times. And that feels weird being in a place like that without a gun. You know, it's scary, but I've gotten lucky. I haven't had any bad things happen yet. But
Yeah, my whole time, like touring all the countries that we went into and stuff, that was a little unnerving. And luckily, some of the security that we had with us were able to carry guns and,
Oh,
and
that's
stuff
nice.
like, especially when you get into South America and like
oh yeah,
going into Mexico. Like if you're crossing the border,
Mm-hmm.
especially with high profile people, that it gets a little bit dicey. But I always at least had a flathead screwdriver.
yeah, you got a knife or something that you can shank someone
but
with.
like
Yeah,
even in New York, you can't walk around with a pocket knife.
really?
No.
Oh my god, I didn't
Like
know
it
that.
has to be within a certain, like you can't just grab your Benchmade or your half face blade, and if it's a fixed blade, you're really fucked.
Jeez.
Like a cop might let you go with like a folding knife.
Yeah.
As long as it's not like a
little Boy Scout,
like a Spider
freaking
Co police, like forget
folding,
about it. Yeah. Which is insane, right?
That's
'Cause
wild.
it's illegal in the city. And then guns are just like a huge no. I've had a
Yeah.
friend that actually went through security and forgot he had his 9mm in his backpack. I'm
Shit.
like, how do you forget? Well, I guess with this friend, you could guess why, but yeah, so
Yeah, I always seem to have bullets in mine. Bullets, which I don't even
Right.
know why. And then I had a broadhead in my purse when I got back from Hawaii, and I was at work going through my purse, and there's just a broadhead in there. I was like, okay, probably need to get this out of
Yeah.
here. See how that would happen.
God, my friends over at Half Face are actually making a tactical screwdriver now,
Oh,
which is
really?
badass, and it's TSA certified.
Oh, okay.
Not certified. I've gotten a couple arguments with the TSA, but I always fly with that now.
Okay.
But it has to be under 7 inches, so it's like an 1/8 inch under 7 inches or something. You can carry a screwdriver onto a
I
plane,
didn't know that. Wow.
which is, I mean, I don't even know if I should be saying this publicly because hopefully only good guys are doing
Right.
it. But
Don't wanna
like,
give anyone any
it's a
ideas, but-
false sense of safety too. But it does make me feel a little bit safer to have at least one line of defense,
Right.
other than a coffee pot or
Yeah.
a beverage cart.
Yeah,
like
no kidding.
could you imagine some of those people on like Flight 93 or
Yeah.
whatever that fought back? Like, it's insane.
Yeah, scary stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think about that too. Like, there's been time I've wanted to take like antlers on, like even with my access deer that I just shot, and I was like, I don't know if I can because of like I might have to
sharp they
wrap them or something. I didn't even want to mess with it because I didn't want to. I was traveling with my kids, and I didn't want to have to go back through security and try to figure out how to get them home.
So do
But
you just ship them home then, or?
I put in my suitcases. I have those big Terraglide bags that are pretty tall, and so I haven't shot in anything too
So
big.
don't shoot a 400 class
so
bull.
don't go shoot anything too big. No, but when I've hunted in like South Dakota, I just go to Lowe's and find a box that fits it, and
Yeah.
people think it's like some big complicated process, and it's really not. You just put it in a box and you check it like you would your luggage. Same thing with your meat. Even my bow, I stopped traveling with my bow in my bow case because you go to the airport and they think it's a gun, and then you have to explain it's not a gun. You have to tell them it's a bow, and then half the time they're like, well, we don't know if there's rules about that, and I'm like, there's not. And then they need to go check with the manager, and it was just always a shit show. So I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. So I got a soft case, and people will argue that this is stupid, but I put my bow in a soft case. I pack clothes around it. I don't even take the sight off. Also pretty stupid, but I never have. And I've traveled all over the world with it like that. And they don't even know that there's a bow in there. And it doesn't matter. I mean, like I said, there's no rules about it.
So you can just check your bow in at standard luggage.
Yep.
It's kind of the same thing with that tactical screwdriver. Like if a TSA, if it does get flagged and they start looking at it, they're like, I don't know if this is legal. And you're like, it is. Like, here's the rule book. Like, you have to explain the laws to them, which is frightening.
It's pretty,
You know what I mean?
Scary.
It's like, wait a minute. I know your legal stance better than you do when it comes to this particular item. That's probably not across the board, but they're probably not used to dealing with that either. Like bow hunters are like 1% of the hunters that are actually out there now. It might be 2 or 3% now that you have all these celebrity bow hunters.
No, I definitely think it's increased, especially with COVID. It seemed like a lot of people picked up a bow during that time. I don't know if they're necessarily hunting with it, but just to shoot.
Yeah, well, honestly, that's my favorite thing, what we did this morning, going out to American Bowmen. I almost like that over hunting just because it's like you can talk, the camaraderie, like we're bullshitting in between targets. There's a little bit of banter in there, especially when I get Scott going, So
yeah, those are always fun. Yeah, and it's good practice. I mean, I always like to shoot a few courses right before hunting season, especially there's some places back home where they have set them up towards the end, closer to hunting season with good hunting scenarios or like hard shots, that would be realistic for when you're in the woods. So I always like doing 1 or 2 of those before hunting season.
That's what I love about Scott and them up there. Like there's a few, like you were shooting through some brush, you're shooting around some trees.
The ground blind.
That was a good one. That sucked. I'm never going in that thing again.
And then that really close one.
I'm going to be taking a mulligan on that one. Oh yeah. I learned something new today. I've never had to shoot anything at 4 yards.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because I don't think they've ever had a target set up at 4 yards. I'm like, really? You guys put a target at 75 yards?
I remember you were like, where's the target? And I'm like, it's right in front of you.
I almost shot 2 wrong targets. Thank God you were with me. You guys were talking about standing bare, and I'm like aiming at another target that's like completely over the back shoulder. But I thought that was the target. But yeah, shout out to the guys that set it up, and Scott being one of those, set up the course up there because I think we only shot 1 exotic animal today, which I love. Is like it was the jaguar. Everything else is like pretty much Western hunt.
Yeah,
type style, and it's just an awesome course. There's a lot of uphill, downhill. I think that last shot that we had on stake 20 was ranging at 40 yards downhill, and it
looks so much further.
It looks like 80 yards, which is wild on a ram. Super cool.
Yeah.
But it's such good practice. Like it's ruined me for like going to a normal range. Like no disrespect, but like standing on that polished concrete, shooting at the Vegas shoot targets. That's kind of fun, like if you're trying to score a 300, which will never happen for me.
It's a different kind of pressure.
Yeah.
For sure.
But it's just boring.
Yeah, it is.
It's boring.
I can't do, and I shoot really bad at paper targets. Like it's really weird just how my brain works.
Yeah.
Like I'm a good shot, but when you get paper in front of me, I don't know. I just don't do good. It has to be a 3D target. And
I like the 3Ds more because it's that hunting scenario. You're not looking like you have to guess where the 12 ring is at a lot of times, right?
Yeah, a lot of those today we did there. Yeah. I didn't have
you
my binos, so I was really guessing.
Yeah, you were pretty trustful of me.
No binos, so I had to trust you I'd let you shoot first a couple times so you could guide me in, be my spotter for where I needed to go.
Yeah, we did pretty good when we were working together, like teamwork. Yeah, you got a couple 12s off of that. That was fun. Yeah, no, it's so I guess I want to get into a little bit of your coaching from Joel, because I've been coached from Tom. Mm-hmm. Very similar philosophies between shot IQ and solid archery mechanics. Mm-hmm. I think shot IQ is John's, correct?
Is Joel's.
Or Joel's, I'm sorry.
And
Joel's.
then Tom's is the mechanics.
Is solid archery mechanics.
And they actually coached together. They were doing immersion clinics, which is
you imagine
pretty badass. Well, it was pretty sweet. I don't think they're doing them anymore, but they would go to sometimes Texas to like a hunting ranch, And then they would team up and Joel would teach his and Tom would teach his. And then if you went to that course, you would also get to hunt. So you would do their stuff like the first day or two, and then you would get to go shoot something. So that was like the best combo. And I don't know that I ever went to one that they were both at. I went to one with Tom in Texas, Tom and Alex. Alex was at that one too.
Alex is another great
he's awesome.
human.
He's a great coach, great person. Yeah, so I've learned a lot from both of them. But I talk a lot about this on podcasts. I don't think there's been a podcast where I haven't talked about those two men because I attribute everything, my success with archery and hunting to them. And I just was very fortunate that I got coaching right away, so I didn't develop any bad habits. Joel, he lives down the road. So you got it right out of the gate. Yeah, he lives right down the road from me. And I think he saw an Instagram post of me when I first got my bow just punching the shit out of the trigger. And he left some comment, like, I don't even remember what it was, but it was something along the lines of, you need to get your ass in here and come see me. And thank God he did. And he took me under his wing. And I go over there all the time. And I've been through his course a million times. I've taken a bunch of people over there to go through it. And then,
can you take me sometime?
I need to come see me and visit. Yeah. Well, he's traveling so much now. Once he did Rogan and once he retired and freed up his time, I don't even think he's home right now. I just talked to him the other day and I don't think he was home. So he's off doing that. And then Bodie, his son, he's world champion.
Incredible archer.
So if Joel's not home, I'll go shoot with Bodie, and I learn something every time I go there and shoot with him too. So I really do try to say I'm not like some naturally born good shooter. There's no such thing. It's because of what I got from Joel. And then with the recurve stuff, same thing. I knew right away, if I'm going to do this, I want to do it the right way. I'm going to go see Tom, and Tom helped me a lot. And Joel does a lot of recurve stuff too. In fact, when I first started shooting, he had me shooting with my thumb. He's a thumb shooter.
Right.
And not very many people do that. And so I was thumb shooting for...
So do you wrap your index finger, or is it a pinch?
Yeah, you wrap your thumb and then you pinch it.
Okay.
Yeah, so your thumb is almost completely wrapped.
It looks
deep
so
into
strange to me.
And and I could do it up to 35 pounds, and I was really good with it, and I was excited about it, but I wasn't strong enough past 35 pounds, so then I had to switch to 3 under. And maybe I built some strength now. Maybe I could try to go back to thumb and see how I do. But yeah, I've just learned a lot about, and I do trips where I come to Colorado just to see Tom, just to come get coaching. And now it's kind of came full circle because I'm getting ready to teach at a women's retreat in Idaho where they've asked me to come teach compound and recurve. So I'll be applying some of what I've learned from them to help now teach other women to shoot. So
valuable. I mean, I'm so lucky that I have Tom down the street, and I've known Tom Tom's known me since I was a kid.
Oh, okay.
Which is cool because I come from a family of bow hunters, and they were like one of the only original bow shops in Denver was Rocky Mountain Specialty Gear. It's been there for, I think it's over like 50 years or something, man. Crazy. It's unbelievable. And it's a family, like Tom's wife shoots, his grandkids shoots, Danny, there's so many. They're all great people. They're all incredible people, right? And most humble. And like, talk about a place that's doing it right. Like, when a new archer walks into an archery shop or into a 3D course or a 3D shoot, or to get some coaching, it's a very intimidating like thing. And I feel like there's some shops out there that make you feel inferior or like you're stupid, right? Like, for asking a question, or somebody will just take your bow and start setting it up to their liking. It's like, that's why I specifically go to one person, and they're the only person that sets up my bow. That's why I've learned how to do everything short of a bow press.
Or
it's it's just, I don't want people fucking with my shit. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, so, and you got to be careful, because if you take your bow into some just random bow shop, they'll just grab it and start tweaking shit on it and like trying to retune it and have you shooting through paper, and it's like, no, my bow's fine,
right? They just feel like they have to do something to it.
And then every time you're on one of those flat ranges, like I even got it last week, like all the coaching and all the stuff that I've done is like, somebody came out from behind the counter. I guess they weren't from behind the counter, it was another patron there, and trying to coach me on my shot, and I'm like, I'm good over here.
Yeah, thanks, but no thanks.
And the funny thing is I was shooting better on paper than he was. And I'm like, because we were in the lane next to each other. So I don't know. It's just one of those things that it's like a kind of an entitlement. And I don't know about Joel, but like the Clums have none of that. Like there's just like, they're such incredible people when it comes to that and just like coaching you the right way. And Tom has been a phenomenal coach because he had to really work with me. I had to learn all the bad habits that I've had over years.
Yeah.
Of punching a trigger. We had to go to a different release for me and all that sort of thing. And it took some discipline for me to fight through that, to not just go back to punching a trigger. And I was like, it took a good like 2 months to get down, like just my mantra, that shot sequence. And for people that don't shoot archery, there's a couple different ways that you can shoot a bow. When you're punching a trigger, it's basically you're thinking about moving your finger, and then your finger moves to release the bow, as where there's more of a subconscious muscle movement, and it's a surprise shot when you're using back tension only, right?
Yeah, it's like Joel would describe it as an open loop. Punching the trigger would be an open loop system in your brain, where it would be closed loop when you're doing his process of talking yourself through the shot and making a conscious effort the whole entire time of pulling through that shot. And a lot of people, the target panic comes with watching the pin. You know, that pin is moving, that pin is always moving, and they, as soon as they see it get to the center, they just want to punch the crap out of it. Yeah. And one of the things that Joel teaches, which is really eye-opening for people, is he'll have you like stand with an arrow held out in front of you and like close one eye as if you're holding it up to the bullseye, and you can watch it move, but it always comes back to the center. And he points that out. He's like, watch what it does. It moves, but what's happening? Well, it always comes back to the center. So yeah, there's a lot of people out there that they're just so wrapped around the aim. And that's where the target panic comes in, is with the aim. And so with Joel's process, you are getting the aim done. You're setting the pin up there, and you're just letting it dance. You're not trying to correct it. You're not trying to punch the trigger when you see it get to center. He describes it as kind of looking at it like from afar as a picture. You're not like zoned in specifically watching that pin. You kind of just see it as a picture, and then you start your concentration on the release, which you probably saw out there. My process getting through my shot is long. There's a couple, it's keep pulling until it breaks. And like you said, it's going to be a surprise break is what it should be.
Yeah.
You're not going to want to yank it right at the end or something, which...
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, Tom teaches it just a little bit different. It's kind of that subconscious aiming, which is unbelievable, because if you're looking at a spot on the target, let's like say you're looking at the 12 ring, but for a split second, you decide to go look outside of the 5. When I shoot, the arrow will naturally go there. And I'm going to be like, I'll catch myself and be like, oh, I wasn't even looking at where I wanted the arrow to go. But it's almost like driving the arrow with your eye. So the pin is really like, I guess, just to gauge at what level I need to hold my bow, because I look at it for a split second. Is my level bubble and is my pin set? And it's kind of the first part of my mantra.
Yeah. And that
then
should be
my elbow position, right?
Yeah.
Because I always have a bad habit of keeping my elbow dropped. So the more I raise it, the less back tension I got to use to release the bow. But I'm probably butchered a couple shots, and it's all on film today, so we can go back and watch it and get picked apart. But yeah, it's really like I don't really care where my pin's at, as long as I'm just looking at the point. Like I'm imagining my arrow almost going into the 12 ring before it even goes there, or just focusing on that particular spot where I want it to go. And my sight isn't even really like in the picture anymore.
Yeah, like once you get it set, you don't need to watch it again. You shouldn't be trying to correct it, because once you get it set, as long as you're holding steady, it's going to come back to center, and then you just need to concentrate on getting through the release. And
that's so awesome that Joel's that close to you too.
Oh gosh, I know. And not only that, but like, it doesn't matter how busy he is or how much he has going on. Like, I know that if I ask him for something, he'll be like, yeah, come over. He'll make it work. Like he'll fit. If he has 15 minutes that he knows he can fit me in, he'll be like, yep, come over during this time and I'll take care of you. And so there's not a lot of people out there willing to do that. And it's
That's
not that he
awesome.
just does it for me. He does it for everyone. You know, that's just the kind of person he is. He'll give you the shirt off his back. And he's helped my daughter a lot, which is really nice. He does really good with kids. Kids don't like listening to their parents. So my daughter does not want me to coach her, but Joel has helped her, and she's going to be a badass shooter, you know, and it's
That's
because
incredible.
starting, especially with kids, you know, you don't want them developing bad habits and target panic. So we're very
That's
fortunate.
what took me months to fight through. I think I still fight through
you
it
still do.
occasionally.
That's the thing. Is it's
I'm like,
not,
what the hell is up with this shot? I was like, oh, I punched the trigger.
Yep.
Yeah.
You got to make a conscious effort to do it right every time. And that's what I tell myself. It's part of my process. I'm going to shoot this shot right, or I'm not going to shoot it at all. And you have to tell yourself, else you'll just get into that subconscious of, like Joel says, like your thoughts that they just happen naturally. And then you'll just go in an open loop and the shot won't be, you know, what it's supposed to be with going through your process. And
I found for myself, like the best way to do that is just let down the bow.
Right.
Which sucks.
Yeah,
I hate
well,
letting down a bow. Like it's
Yeah.
uncomfortable, but like, and just reset. Cause like if I feel like something's off, I'm just, and I've done it on a couple hunts where I'm just like, I feel like weird in my shoulder. Like I don't feel braced out or like whatever it is. That's a hard thing to do.
It is. Yeah. And he used to say it was okay to let down. And I think when he's been coaching me, he's kind of changed it to now he wants me to actually just start my process over from the beginning at full draw.
Really?
And just go through it. And that's more of a mental challenge than letting go, is kind of letting your mind give up and like giving in, you know, to the struggle. And that he just wants me to work through it. But I did let down today because of the wind.
It got a little windy when we got
a little
on
windy
top.
and I let down once. But yeah, there has been times where I'm going through my process and maybe my shot's not going off and I'm fighting. I want to punch it. Like at the end, I'm just like, come on, damn it. I can feel myself wanting to punch it. And I'm like, no, I know it's not going to be a good shot, and I'll just start over. And maybe I'll get my aim again. I'll redo my aim, and then I'll say, here I go. And then I'll start to keep pulling and just go through it again, which then you're held back at that point for quite a bit of time.
Especially if you're shooting a recurve, right?
Yeah, no, I don't do it with my
longbow.
recurve.
Yeah.
No, my shot process is a lot quicker with my recurve.
Okay.
And I definitely know if I go over a certain amount of seconds, that's going to be a low shot because I'm going to collapse. My shoulder's going to, I'm going to, you know, collapse in. Because, yeah, I try to pull back, you know, at least 50 pounds.
That's crazy.
With the recurve.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
With a recurve, that's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, what was
Like I have
Scott's
trouble
today?
shooting 45
Scott
with
was
my jolly.
52. What did he say his was? His was 50 something.
His was 58 at 30.
Was it 50? Well, no, 28.
At
It was
28?
50 something at 28, which his draw is longer. So
It's
he,
40. His limbs are 45 at 28, right?
No, I think his limbs were heavier than that because I was surprised
okay.
because I think
That is a beautiful bow.
it is.
By the
Now
way.
I want it. And so now I'm pissed because I shot it and now I'm going to probably buy it, which is what I do every time at these shoots is I'll borrow someone's bow and then I'll go buy one and my husband gets mad at me. I have a bow problem.
Yeah. So I guess with Joel's coaching, do you shoot firearms with your husband, like being in the military? And like, is he big on, I mean, that's part of his training, right?
I
like
mean,
he's in the special forces, correct?
He's in special forces and I don't know what their training is like, but obviously there's a lot of it, a lot of, he's done Joel's stuff. He's done and that was really hard for him. He struggled a lot with Joel's course. He still struggles with it. And so, yeah, we've gone out and shot firearms. I've done pistol work with Joel's shot IQ stuff that I've learned, and it works just as well. That's what's great about it, is that it works across all weapon types. And he's now started to apply it to other things like sports. And he's working with like Olympic coaches for different sports.
Really?
And so he's really evolved. I think he's in the middle of writing a book right now about it. Because it's not shot IQ anymore. I think it's mind IQ. So it's more broad, encompassing. But yeah, with firearms, definitely it helped me because that was really where I had target panic. Because that's what I started hunting with, was a rifle when I was 11. And my dad never taught me how to slowly squeeze a trigger, like any of that kind of stuff. So yeah, I had a lot of problems with hunting with a firearm.
I never really had any problems, but I definitely wasn't using that concept.
Mm-hmm.
I was a trigger puncher for sure. And that's probably why I'm still not accurate with a handgun, but that's interesting that. So with that, do you go through the same mantra and you're just slowly squeezing the trigger?
And I set my,
because you can't do it back tension, right? So
right. It's the slow squeeze of the finger. And I set my triggers high on all my stuff, super high. Even my release, that's as like heavy as it can go. So that I really have to squeeze and squeeze and squeeze and squeeze before it goes off. And wrapping your finger too, like all fully. You're not using the tip of your finger on that trigger. How much purchase
you get.
You're wrapping it fully around.
That makes sense.
So I have videos. Joel worked with me with my 300. I think we were sighting it in for my Scotland trip. And it was my first time applying his stuff to a firearm. And I was like freehanding. I shot like a small steel target, like freehanding at like 180 yards with my 300 using his stuff. And
at 300 yards?
No, my 300 Win Mag is what I was shooting. No, it was only 180 yards. But I mean, it definitely messes with your brain more because the reticle is dancing so much more. There's so much more movement. Right. Like when I was freehanding, it was just going all over the place. And you hear Joel coaching me through the shot saying, let the reticle dance. Just let it dance because you know it's going to come back to center. And so, yeah, it was a different learning it with firearms for sure, but it works just as well.
He developed this method with firearms though, right? Because a lot of people don't know he was a SWAT sniper, right?
Yeah.
At one point.
Yeah, but it took him a lot of years to kind of figure this all out. He talks a lot about it on the Rogan podcast. He really goes in deep about his career and at what point in his career did he start putting this stuff together. And even some of his hunts, he started realizing some of this stuff on hunts that he had gone on and mistakes that he was making and how to blueprint his shot. And yeah, it's pretty amazing listening to his whole story because he didn't figure this out right away. It was a lot of trial and error and struggles and fuck ups to get where he is. So that's what's cool about it is how it's evolved for him over the years.
It's super rad. And it helps, like, it can really help anybody and everybody. Like, that's the thing. Like, whether you're a female, kid,
it doesn't matter.
Adult, it doesn't matter, right? Like, it's that concept works for everyone.
Yeah, you just have to have the determination to do it. That's what it comes down to is how determined of an individual are you? And he also says people that are more like laid back, not as high strung, do better with it. Like if you meet Bodie, he's just like cool as a cucumber. I mean, I just sometimes want to like shake him because we're like opposite. Like
that's Joel's son.
I'm very like high strung A-type personality.
Isn't he he's a world record setter at
I mean, he won Vegas at like 14, which is crazy. Yeah.
And he's the only person that shot like a 300
there's a bunch
multiple times, right?
Yeah, there's a bunch
consecutively or something like
titles that he's Lancaster. He did something at Lancaster that was like some record. Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing.
I don't follow archery enough. I would like to.
I didn't follow any of the indoor stuff either, but I started when Bodie started shooting because I'm like, okay, here's a good reason to watch it. And it's actually a lot more fun to watch than you'd think. I thought it would be like golf or something.
Well, they have full on like light show and all kinds of crazy shit.
Yeah, it's pretty fun to watch. I just can't imagine, like, I don't think I would do well with the pressure. Like, there's a certain type of pressure when you have an animal in front of you, but when you're standing on a line and you know you have to make a perfect shot and it's like $75,000 that's on the line, like that's a whole different level of pressure. Fuck it up. And I would definitely fuck it up. So I think you kind of have to have that type of personality that you can keep your nerves calm, and I couldn't do it.
Yeah. And I guess he kind of grew up in that setting. Like a lot of those people that thrive in that sort of environment, like it's kind of a generational thing. Like look at Levi Morgan or somebody like that, right? Like he basically grew up on the archery range. I think if I remember correctly, like he started shooting at a young age and now he's just crushed. And then look at how many NFL players have kids that are NFL players, right? Because you have all that experience, you have all that, like, so it kind of makes sense. Yeah. You know? It's like
he started young. There's pictures of him at 2 years old shooting a bow.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Super cool.
Yeah.
So how many 3D courses have you shot around the country? Like, because you travel for some of this quite a bit. Like you travel for archery probably more than for pleasure, right?
Yeah, I've done a couple total archery challenges. Maybe only like 5 or 6.
Okay.
Well, besides Best of the Best, I've done that every year, so that's like 4 of those. But yeah, as far as the total archery challenges, only a few. I do a lot we have a lot in Washington. We have a ton of ranges, and there's a big calendar that comes out every year, and you can do a 3D shoot almost every weekend.
That's incredible.
Within an hour of your house at a different range. I mean, we're really lucky. So I
where
don't
are
have
you
to
guys
travel.
at exactly in Washington? Are you guys close to the Cascades?
I'm
or
in
like-
Pierce County, so I'm in the west side of the state, and I'm kind of by Mount Rainier.
Oh.
So I'm in between Seattle and Mount Rainier.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's amazing out there. And yeah, like I said, they just put on some great shoots. The Northwest Mountain Challenge is, they do a shoot out there at Stevens Pass.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to do that one.
And you're from there originally, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Grew up there. I've moved around a little bit since being married because my husband's job, we have to move. But yeah, I feel very blessed living there. I didn't realize that not as many places in the country had archery ranges or even rifle ranges. I just thought that was normal. I mean, there's like 5 like I said, within like 45 minutes to an hour of my house that are good ones that have like walkthrough courses and stuff that you can go do.
You don't really appreciate a place until you leave it and you realize like, that's one reason why I'm back here,
Yeah.
Because at one point this place sucked, in my mind.
Yeah.
It didn't suck. It just was like, I just wanted to go see different things. And we got it pretty good when it comes to like, if you're into outdoor things, whether it's mountain biking or fly fishing or archery or shooting guns or rock climbing. I mean, got everything you want to do here.
Yeah,
right?
outdoors is paradise for sure. Yeah, you guys have better weather. I mean, the only thing I realized when I moved
gloom,
is how much it rained. Because when you're living in Washington, you hear people talk about it. But then when you move and you're like, holy shit, it really did rain a lot in Washington. But pretty used to that by now. But yeah, it is dark and gray and gloomy. We don't get much sunshine, which is why I like to travel.
You're in the right state for sunshine.
It was beautiful today, man. It was great. Yeah.
Definitely working on those tan lines today.
Couldn't beat that weather. Yeah.
So I guess how does American Bowman stack up to like some of the 3D courses? Always kind of what I wonder. Because I've shot a bunch of locally, but I don't think I'd love to come shoot some in Washington.
Yeah, you
I bet
should.
you there's some badass.
There's some good ones. Yeah, the Northwest Mountain Challenge is pretty awesome. And they do a series of those. They do one in Oregon and in Idaho. No, but American Bowman does a really good job with their course. I'd say that's one of the top 3 courses that I've shot for sure.
It's so tucked back in there, like almost perfectly, that there's no highway noise. Like,
yeah. There's wildlife out there running around.
I was actually shocked today. Yeah, you got to be careful out there which target you pick, right?
Right,
Because
not
we had
the live
deer
ones.
like running on the course,
like bedded down by some of the targets.
Yeah, like this is my phone boyfriend over here, right?
Right.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I've actually seen. One of my fears is I always go out at first light, and I've seen cats out there and a lot of cats.
Oh, really?
Before. Yeah, there's a line that like pretty much
Lives out there?
Yeah, I mean, it's surrounded by national forest, and if you look, like the views are epic too. Like today we got some beautiful shots. Like you're not looking at houses. I mean, it is just mountain ranges.
Mountains, yeah.
It's pretty badass. But just tucked away from that noise. But today was the noisiest I've ever heard it with the logging trucks. Like normally it's like pitch quiet.
And I guess the other side would have been more quiet, right? Because other side isn't even
it's a little
close to
tucked
the
back,
road. Yeah. And that's more like, I feel like that's more shade too. And what's more wooded back
it's
there,
northern
if I remember,
exposure.
right?
They actually, so on the northern side of most of our mountains are my favorite spots to be in the summer because it's cool, it's damp, it's kind of like that. You get those bright green pine tree buds, and it's just like the little fir trees, and the trees don't grow as tall, and that's normally where the predators hang out.
Yeah.
But the northern exposure is so badass. So that side they close during winter just because.
Okay.
I mean, you've shot that side before.
Yeah.
There's like a 50-foot cliff shot.
Yeah,
in
it's
there.
pretty sketch.
There's a little bit of traversing that happens, right? Like today the side that we shot is open year round. Just because it's more of a southern exposure, so there's a lot more sun on it. But like once it snows on that northern exposure.
Yeah,
like
we
get into the winter months, like it'll have snow all the way up till spring.
Well, and that's crazy because we did shoot that side with snow that one year when it snowed in May or whenever it was.
Yeah, but the temperatures are high enough in May. Like we had a storm Derek, was it in April that we had that storm that was like 4 feet of snow?
Yep.
And it was literally melted in like 2 days.
Oh, crazy. Yeah.
Right? It melted
That
like
makes
pretty
sense.
much like 4 feet of snow. I mean, it was a muddy fucking
Oh,
mess.
I'm sure.
But like,
Yeah.
Yeah, there was like at least 8 inches of just this thick, wet snow.
Yeah.
And then it was just nice powdery stuff, but it was a total bitch to have to shovel.
yeah.
People,
those are the
people were
back-
socked into their houses for like 3 days
Yeah.
because of it.
Wow. And
Yeah.
how long ago was that?
Not that long ago.
So
like
may-
last month. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, that was just this
Yeah.
year. Okay, crazy.
Like even in this time of year, like in May, we've gotten some of our biggest storms. Like I remember as a kid, like it snowing like 6 feet here
Damn.
before.
Yeah,
And
we
just
don't
like,
see that in Washington.
It's kind of weird here because right where we're at in the foothills, the storms coming in from the east get trapped against the mountains.
Okay.
And they can't like make it.
Yeah,
It's like
up and over.
a car that can't go over a mountain pass or something, right? It
Yeah.
goes kind of slow.
That
so
makes
we
sense.
just get fucking dumped on until it gets enough momentum to go
Go over. Well, I'm glad there was no snow this time.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the,
No,
the
it was
sunshine.
beautiful morning.
And I can't drive in the snow. I'm
Yeah.
going to be screwed when we move because I don't have experience doing it in Washington. We're supposed to move to Wyoming. I'm going to be fucked.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice. When is that?
Hopefully when my husband retires in the next year or two.
Okay.
So we'll
Awesome. Are
see.
you guys going to a certain spot? in
Towards where Kafaru is probably.
Wyoming? Okay.
Yeah, Leander, Riverton area.
Awesome.
If that all works out how it's been talked about, we've kind of made some plans to do that.
Well,
so
then
we'll
you're
see.
driving distance to here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the
I think, look up how far
Time to
Riverton,
drive.
but like we can be in Cheyenne in 2 hours.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Like
Okay.
it's not any further than like going to the Springs really.
Yeah, okay.
Which is kind of cool.
Where'd you say? Riverton?
Riverton's a little bit further north. It's probably like 4 hours. Something like that, I would think. But even like Tetons, you can be there in
5
like
or 6.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, Tetons you can be 8 hours, I
Yeah,
think.
that's not
driving.
bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they get snow and lots of wind,
Yeah.
which I'm not used to. So, and the cold temperatures, man, because Washington, I mean, even though we have the rain, we have pretty mild weather as far as we don't have we don't get in the negatives. I mean, the coldest it's going to get is into the 20s.
But you have humidity there being at sea level.
Well, this is what people say, but you don't realize it when you live there.
Right.
Like when I hear people talk about humidity, I think of like Florida and Georgia and places like that I've gone where I get there and I'm like, damn, this is humidity. But like in Washington, I guess I'm just used to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have it for sure. I mean, we live in the rainforest. Like our climate
Yeah.
is the rainforest. So it's wet, definitely, year round pretty much.
I lived in Texas for a year, and it was about all that I could stand. Just because of the humidity, and I didn't realize like the winters there, it'd be 30 degrees, and it felt like negative 15
Yeah.
here because Colorado is such a dry, high climate. Like if it's 35 degrees, I can be in if the sun's out,
Right.
I can be in a t-shirt like shoveling my decks and be totally fine.
Yeah.
Like it's insane.
And Washington's the same way where it's going to feel way colder than it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. That humidity does it.
Well, that's awesome. Why are you leaving Washington?
Politics. The state has kind of gone to shit, kind of like, you guys know with Colorado, we've dealt with some of the same stuff. And it sucks because our whole family, both sides of our families are there. His are on the east side, mine are on the west side. All of our friends. It's a beautiful state. We have a gorgeous home there. We have a really nice log cabin that we bought that kind of could be considered our dream home. But yeah, I mean, just all the shit that goes on there with politics. Our governor that we've had for the past few terms has really run things into the ground. So I don't like my tax dollars going to buy needles for drug addicts. I don't like that our police can't arrest people for pretty much you can't be arrested unless it's like a violent crime. So like theft is pretty much legal in Washington. Like people just walk into stores and you can steal up to $5,000 worth of shit and you can walk
Or
out
they
with
can
it.
break the windows out of your car and take
Steal
whatever
that
they
too.
want out.
Yeah, and
it's
I'm just sick of that kind of stuff. And I figure Wyoming is the last frontier at this point.
It really kind of is like there,
Yeah.
New Mexico, that kind of those. I don't know. It's
I mean, it used to be Idaho and Montana, but even those are changing. Those were on our list too. But
I mean, Idaho's basically a little California now, or Washington.
it's getting there.
I mean,
Certain
it's
parts
like,
of
yeah.
it. Yeah. It's just I
It's
don't.
unfortunate that I guess those influences move in, but they don't really accept the culture. They're just trying to make it what they left.
Yeah. It's like,
Which
why did
I've
you
never
leave? Yeah. Why did you leave where you were?
Yeah.
Yeah. Stay there.
No, it's really hard for me to swallow. And I hate being that old negative, like Colorado native or a Colorado born and raised person. You know, there's so many of them that are just so bitter to everything, my family members included, because they helped homestead a ton of it. So they've really seen the change from,
I bet.
You know, I mean, hundreds of years of change, you know, and stories from their family members and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't understand, I guess, like moving to a place and then trying to make it like exactly where you came from or your values, like without understanding a little bit of the land or the lay of the land first.
Right.
But yeah, it's strange. It's disheartening to me because I want my kids to experience the same thing that I did growing up. And I just feel like it's just slowly dying, you know? And
yeah. It's a tough time to raise kids in. It's stressful. I just feel like it's an ongoing battle from people that are trying to push their beliefs and make my children, you know, feel certain ways about things. And I don't even do that to them as their parent. Like, I mean, they know what our belief system are and what our values are as a family, but they're also told that if they think differently from that, that's okay with us. You know, like if they don't agree with everything my husband and I agree on.
Which is a good model to have.
Right? Like you have to, but I mean, in our culture, that's kind of not how things are going. Like even in the classrooms, they're being told you need to think this way and there's no other way to think about it. And that sucks to have to try to shelter your kids from that.
Yeah,
you know?
no, you should be left. The problem with that is we're building a culture that's reliant on other people and not self-sufficient, right? If you have to be told
How
what
to
to think
right.
and what's appropriate and what's not,
Right.
there's not good moral standards that are happening there, or it's too thin of a line. If you have to be told how you should think and feel and react to something, it should be black or white, really, right?
Yeah.
Like, yes, murder is bad, right?
Right.
And the contrary to that is don't murder somebody.
Yeah.
Like, and everything else in the middle is just kind of like people are going to dance around that with their own personal beliefs, how they were raised, maybe where they grew up. And I don't think that we can start getting down to that really fine line of who's on which side of which line, right? Like, because then it doesn't let you be your own person or self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Like, at that point, you're just a cookie cutter. And it's not even just the schools that are doing this. It makes me so upset that I have to tell my 6-year-old she can't watch a Disney movie that she wants to watch because I don't believe with what they're teaching.
Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean?
The
like,
messaging that
and
they're
that's
trying
the
to
last
put in
thing
there.
I want to do as a parent. It's like, well, all of her friends watch it. Well, it's like, you know, so you really, especially nowadays, because everything is like, when I was a kid, we only had like 4 channels on the TV. So like, there was no arguing over what you were going to watch. Now everybody has their own devices.
They can watch
so
whatever,
much that they can just, it'll divide you as a family to the point like, it's like, hey, no, we're actually all going to sit down and watch a movie together tonight, or, you know, which doesn't happen in my house very often. Normally it's like a board game or a hike or like, let's go do something, right? But yeah, when they're left to their own devices, I mean, you don't know what they're watching if they're on headphones and in their bedroom and like, you know,
technology and social media and that whole thing is a very slippery slope.
And anything that you want to see is at your fingertips, right? Like myself included. Like, I'm watching Nature's Metal, you know, like a lot.
Right.
Like,
I love that page.
Shit that's probably not appropriate to show to my 6-year-old, but she would love it. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. It's just, I just feel like we need to pull our heads out of the sand a little bit and just, I think I was a latchkey kid, so I was very much just left to like, make sure you're home by dark, don't get in trouble. Yeah. And I think that that's a good model to live by because you kind of learn your own lessons, right?
Right.
And you kind of get yourself into your own shit.
Yeah,
and
you kind of need to do it that way.
Experience it that way, then I think they got a tough road ahead of you
Yeah.
when anything comes up. Like,
Those are like always the rebels, like the kids whose parents were like so strict and they didn't get to experience
Yeah.
anything. And then once they hit 18, it's just like shit hits the fan because they're going to go do all that stuff
100%.
that they weren't allowed to do. So yeah, I agree with that. That's kind of how we are with our, how we're parenting our kids. Of course, they're still young, so they have time to get into all that
Right.
trouble. But we both have about 13-year-old girls. So
Wow.
we're in the same boat with that, right? Is it
Yeah.
your daughter? She's 13.
Yeah, she's 13.
So
And, because of everything that's going on, she has chosen, just because we've let her be her own person, not to go to school, and she's already pursuing what she wants to do as a career.
really?
I mean, she's going to online school through
Okay.
a ballet company, right? Where
Uh-huh.
she's been hired. So
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
yeah, so it's pretty cool. Like she's
Yeah.
already making a living. She's already, it pays for her schooling, and it's like,
That's cool.
so it's kind of like a little bit of a college scenario,
Yeah.
I guess, right? Already at 13, which I'm like,
Wow, that's
are we
impressive.
excelling too fast? But then at the same point, it's like, do you hold them back from what they want to do, right? Like as
Yeah,
much
I
as I
wouldn't.
don't want my son to play football because he's so smart, and
Yeah.
I attribute some of my dumbness to getting hit in the head
Concussions
a
and
lot and
stuff,
shit.
yeah.
No, it's like, so it's something I was never gonna like bring up to him, like, hey, you should play football. But there's a ton of value in getting your bell rung too, like,
Yeah.
or getting
Yeah.
the shit knocked out of you.
There's
or
a lot of
like,
good thing to learn from
yeah,
sports.
you
Yeah.
face a lot of adversity in sports, so it's kind of that double-edged sword. And you can't be this helicopter parent. It's like, although I don't send my kids like go to town and do whatever you want,
Right.
right? I
Right.
have a little bit more
have
of
to
a,
rein them in a little.
but I'm like, yeah, go outside and go do something. Like go on a hike. Like
Yeah.
go build a fort. Go,
Yeah.
go
That's
for
what
it.
kids need these days for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and mine love the outdoors. We got really lucky with that, and that's it's cool that I got them into shooting bows too, because that's been a good thing to do as a family. We're now all the
great.
shoot. So my favorite thing about going to the 3D shoots, like what we were talking about earlier, is that we can do it as a family.
Yeah.
And that's really special to me to be able to do something like that with my kids.
And there's a little bit of it, like you're surrounded by like-minded people for
That
the most
too.
part,
Yeah.
right? There's kind of like that tailgate mentality. Everybody's super nice. They're always willing to help you
Yeah.
in one way or another, it seems like.
Yep.
So it's
All
like
like-minded people. Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. That's my favorite part, is going out, especially like the total archery challenges where people are coming from all over, people that you wouldn't normally get to meet, making
Yeah.
new friends. And there's been people that I've met at different things that have become hunting buddies, or we've gone and done other stuff together. So it's kind of cool just to see it evolve. with who
That's
you
super
meet.
cool. So let's talk about what you got coming up hunting wise. I was shocked. I was like just making small talk, standing at the stake, waiting for Scott to shoot. I'm like, so you got any hunts coming up? And you're like, yeah, I'm gonna go hunt African lions in Africa, spot and stock. And I was like, okay, that's not what I was fucking expecting. But thanks for making me feel like less of a man. But no, that's fucking incredible. How do you even?
How's that come about?
Yeah, how does that even? I mean, that's a pretty, not only on the price point, right? Because it's very expensive animal, I would imagine, right? At that point to go.
Yeah. Well, my husband and I hunted in Africa together a few years ago, and then I came up with the idea that I wanted to do a Cape buffalo hunt because I'm an adrenaline junkie. I like flirting with death. So I was like, how many women have shot a Cape buffalo with a bow, spot and stock, had it on film, not shot with a rifle? Like, who has checked these boxes? And from what my research showed, only one, it was Joella Bates. Joella Bates is the only woman that has done the Big Five with a bow, from what I know. That may have changed since then. So I was like, I want to do that. So that was my hunt 2 years ago, and that's also a very dangerous hunt. It was very exciting. We got charged multiple times. I was successful in doing what I wanted to do. I put it down with one arrow. Didn't have to.
Can we talk about that before we even dive into the line?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that is another huge, crazy.
It was. And I also love challenges. That's another thing. I'm an adrenaline junkie, but I also love a good challenge. And I had to train for like a year to get up to poundage of what I needed to be at. Because I don't know what I ended at, 70, 75 pounds. So I normally shoot 60, 65 pounds. So I worked out really hard for a year. I spent a bunch of time doing my arrow setup because you have to have a really heavy 750 grain arrow, I think is what I ended up with. And then...
How big are those bulls? I mean, they got to be like
2,000 pounds.
Like
yeah.
bigger than a bison, right?
Oh, yeah. And they're really big when you get on the ground. They're 40 yards in front of you.
Holy shit.
Because we needed to get like 25 yards was our goal for penetration purposes.
Really?
And we
insanely
would get there and I'd be like, okay, we're 25 yards. And my guide would be like, no, we're like 40. But you know how it is when they're so big, they look so close.
How big is the thoracic or the vitals on those things? Is it
big? I mean, like you've got...
So it's like a moose.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's not going to be hard to make the shot as long as you can keep your shit together and you're not freaking out. Because, like I said, this thing had mock charged us 3 times. And then my lovely PH, who I'm really close with, was like, well, they only do this a few times. And then they come all the, like, you know, they give you your warnings. And then they're going to come all the way to us. So you need to fucking get this done, pretty much. Like, we can't screw around anymore. And I was like, yeah, no pressure. Okay.
Is it PH stand for professional hunter?
Yeah, that's what they call them over
guides,
there is
right?
a PH. Yeah. So that hunt was a blast and I loved it. And I was like, okay, I now want to do dangerous hunts. So I told my husband I wanted to do a brown bear hunt next. And he went and got a life insurance policy on me. So I actually have 2 life insurance policies on me.
It's not funny, but like...
Because of these hunts, though, because he's like, if you're going to start doing this shit, and we went to our financial advisor.
Did you tell the insurance agent?
Well, that's the thing. Is so I asked my insurance agent, I was like, do I need to take down my social media? Like, are they going to start really looking into me? And he's like, no, I wouldn't worry about it. Well, sure as shit. The first one we applied to, they found my social media.
Through your social media? Is that legal?
Oh yeah, they can look into your background as much as they want. They come and take your blood. They do urine tests for your health. I mean, they do all kinds of stuff. So they found my social media page and they said, nope, we're not covering this girl. And I think my Cape Buffalo hunt was on there. So then we went to another one, and I can't remember if I took my page down for a while.
Do they have some sort of stats for people that hunt? I mean, I would think
they do have a scale of how risky of behaviors you do, like what sports or hobbies you have. But does it come down
to whoever's seeing that and judging it? Because that could be a different perspective, right? Like somebody could think that a mountain lion hunt is super dangerous, which it can be, right?
Yeah.
But like...
I don't know. I mean, I also have like skydiving and other stupid shit on there. You know, like it's not just hunting. Like I'll do anything for a good thrill. I snowmobiling up huge mountains. Like, so I'm sure they saw a bunch of stuff. So we did find an insurance agency that covered me. But so my husband was just like, hey, yeah, if you like thrilling, dangerous hunts, and he's the one that booked the lion hunt for me for our anniversary. So just this last year.
That's cool.
And now I'm to the point, well, if I've done the Cape Buffalo and I'm going to do the lion, maybe I just need to be Joella Bates and I need to do the whole big 5.
Yeah.
But it is expensive, and that would be what it comes down to.
Is anybody documenting this for you? Or like?
I had a photographer or a videographer that was supposed to go out with me for the Cape Buffalo hunt, and he canceled last minute. Oh. So that's a funny story about this hunt, which I end up telling if I talk about it because it's so hysterical, is the game plan was supposed to be you have me with my bow, and then you have 2 PHs with rifles. And then I was going to have my cameraman. Well, my cameraman canceled, so I took one of the PHs and was like, you're going to be my cameraman. He's like, well, that means you have 1 less rifle, so now you only have 1 rifle to cover you. So they had this idea of
this is why the policy went up.
So they took one of the skinners, like this young kid that usually stays at the lodge and does all the skinning, and they're like, we're going to take him with us, and he will carry the rifle, and when the Cape Buffalo charges us, the PH will drop the camera, turn and grab the rifle from the kid so that then we're back to having 2 rifles. So we talk about this. The kid allegedly knows this is what he's supposed to do, is he's supposed to hand the rifle to the PH. If the Cape Buffalo charges, we don't run. We like make noise, and make ourselves look big. So we're all on the same page. So we get out there and like the first 20 minutes, this thing charges us. So the PH drops the camera and he turns to go get the rifle from the kid. The kid is running full speed the other direction. He hits the ground and he's in fetal position fucking crying, holding the rifle, and the PH is like trying to yard the rifle out of his arms because this kid is just like freaking out, you know.
So this kid hadn't been in the
He
field
had not
at
been in
all.
the field, which I hadn't been in the field with the Cape buffalo either. But I mean, I've obviously hunted other animals, so I was just like, okay, perfect.
When you say kid, how old?
I mean, he was probably like 20. He's a kid to me. I mean, he was young and, like you said, never been in the field, and it's fucking scary because there's no trees to climb, there's no cover, and you have a 2,000-pound animal coming at you, and he probably thought I just need to outrun the last person to survive.
Well, kind of.
He also had the rifle, so he wasn't thinking it through very clearly.
Shit.
So it sucked because this thing charges so many times, and none of it is really on film. Like the first couple seconds is, but then the camera drops because he's going to get the rifle from the kids. So with this hunt, I don't know who's going to film it. I've asked my husband if he wants to, but I also would like him to have a rifle, because here's the other thing that he's not a fan of, and neither is my Peach, is I tell them I don't want these animals shot with a rifle. Like, I realize it's going to be charging us and you want to shoot it, but do not shoot it until it's like at my feet. Like, until this thing is 1 second away from killing me, please do not shoot it. So they're like, yeah, well, we don't know how well we're going to listen to you on that. But my husband obviously has had a lot of training and shooting under high stressful situations.
Yeah.
And I've seen enough videos online where people get attacked by a lion or a bear or whatever, and they end up getting shot by their friend because their friend's trying to shoot the animal that's on top of them, you know, and they
that's
So
a misconception
that's a
when it
risk.
comes to guns, especially in a home. Like, and I never really thought about it, but fortunately I have some friends from the special operations community that I spent hours with, sitting outside of a dressing room or at an entrance to a VIP thing or whatever. So I would pick their brains. I was like, so what's the best thing? Like, what's the best scenario? Like, and they're like, have a fully loaded gun with one in the mag, like ready to go, and know where your family's at in the house. Like, because a lot of people shoot their own family members in their house if somebody breaks in.
Right. Yeah, so we don't want any hunting accidents like that to happen. So I think my husband is going to be one of the ones with a gun. And then
That's a good call.
I'll have a GoPro on, and I don't know. I haven't hired a actual videographer to come do it.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many people
Takes
would
a
want to
special
go
type
do
of person,
would want to
right?
go do that, you know?
Yeah.
So but I would like to have it on film. And I mean, I haven't really decided how much I'm even going to put out on social media. There's so much hate when it comes to that kind of stuff that
especially once you get over into Africa, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think people realize how much hunting actually does there to keep those animals safe. Like, with all the poaching and everything that goes on.
Yeah,
man,
the poaching is bad.
It's unbelievable.
It's really
right?
bad. Yeah. Where we hunt, even on the concession, there's been times where we were out hunting and they caught poachers out there.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
On the concession?
Yep. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it happens a lot.
Wow.
Yeah. Or they see their dogs. They'll see their dogs that they bring in. And yeah, it's wild. It's the Wild West out there for sure.
Yeah.
So you even have to worry
It's a
about
different
that as far
place.
as being dangerous, is running into those people. You know, you don't know what's going to happen. There might be a firefight that you end up having with a poacher out there. You don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see how this trip goes. I'm pretty excited for it, though. As
That's incredible.
crazy
When
as
are
that
you doing
sounds. August 18th.
Oh, so coming up
Yeah,
quick.
coming up. So, and I haven't done as much preparing for this hunt as the Cape Buffalo hunt. That was a whole different ball game because of like having to get up to higher poundage and having to have a really heavy arrow. This isn't going to be as extreme. I haven't quite figured out what I want my setup to be, but it's not going to be anything compared to the Cape Buffalo. So I probably might use an iron will, probably do 150 grain broadhead. I don't know what I want my total arrow. I need to do some research and kind
Yeah.
of see what people have been using for hunts like that.
And then spot and stock on a cat is very, very hard because they have a higher sense of alertness than probably elk, deer. I mean, you hardly ever see a mountain lion in the wild here. Right. Because the African lions are so big and they are an apex predator, is it kind of that grizzly mentality of like where they have a little bit of more confidence? So
to be honest with you, I don't know. I mean, he has shown me some videos where I'll show it to you. I should have shown you before, where once you shoot them, it's like if they realize where that came from, most of the time they're coming at you. He says it's about 50-50. It's like depends on the animal's personality. You know, like either they're going to take off or they're just going to come right at you. So I know it's just as dangerous after you get that shot in them. And the video that he showed me, it was with a crossbow at like 30 yards, and it was a good shot. And that cat, and it was laying down, and it stood right up and came right for him, and they had to shoot it with a rifle, so it would have definitely killed one of them.
So there's not even time to knock a second arrow.
It's just crazy how confident they are after they've been shot, that they're like in the fight or flight mode, and they're like, I'm going to try to kill you, and they have an arrow in them. I mean,
king of the jungle, right?
Yeah. So
yeah. Wow. No, that's going to be an awesome experience. I would love to have you back on after that, so we can hear the full story.
Hopefully I'm alive.
You'll be alive.
I'll be alive.
Yeah, you'll be alive.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it'll be a good story. I hope we get it on film. Like I said, I would have liked if my Cape Buffalo was more filmed, just to see the charges that we. Yeah. Because I mean, there's nothing like seeing an animal like that come at you. I mean, I almost hope the lion does kind of do some mock charges. Is there not something that? I mean, did the PHs not have like film crew? I would think a lot of their clientele and stuff and the people that are coming are. I don't know, especially for hunts like that. I don't know. I might have time to look into it to see if I can find someone that wants to do it. Yeah. Because it would be cool to have it documented. That's awesome. Yeah, especially because like we were talking about how I can't bring it home. You know, I can't bring the lion home and mount it. You know, not from South Africa. Is it just the laws? Yeah, it was law, and it's not for all the countries in Africa, from what I understand. It's South Africa, and it was because they were saying that like people are going over there and doing the trophy hunting, and it's not a free range hunt, and that's part of it. If it was a free range hunt, I think that those are some of the ones that you can bring home. So, yeah, just laws that have been created over the year. Which is crazy money, right? Like, oh yeah, ridiculous, insane amount of money to do a free range lion hunt. Yeah. I don't make that kind of money yet, so. So, with the PHs and all that sort of stuff, do they give you any sort of like gear list, or like, are they helping you set up your bow as far as like poundage, and that's all on you? They might tell me the recommended poundage, and there's laws in Africa, especially for Cape Buffalo. They actually have, and there might be for lion. I need to find that out. But yeah, there are some things that you need to know. My arrow setup, I did, you know, by myself based off of what they said the total grain should probably be. And then the rest, the gear list isn't too bad. It's pretty mild weather when we go. It's not going to be super hot. It's not going to be super cold. No different than what I'd probably hunt in Washington, honestly. Awesome. And a lot of it, some of it's sitting in blinds, and some of it you can do spot and stock. Spot and stalking some of those plains game is pretty hard. Yeah, I can imagine. But it's fun. I mean, that's what I prefer to do, is the spot and stock. But we're going to take our kids this year, and my daughter's going to try to hunt, so we're probably going to be sitting in some blinds for her. And I'm excited to see how she does. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, I think as a female, and no disrespect, like you're a CrossFit athlete, so you have that going for you, but you're not as short as your average woman. So like, what's your draw length? I mean, that's got to help you quite a bit, right? Because the longer your arrow is, the more it weighs, the better, the closer you are to IBO standards and all that sort of thing. Yeah. Right? 27 and a half is my draw length. Yeah. So not too bad. And there's a lot of men that are 27 and a half. Yeah. Like, that's kind of like the average draw length. Yeah. And then being able to pull back, you know, a decent amount of poundage also helps. Like I try to do 60 to 65, but I've killed a lot of shit with 45, 50 pounds. I've killed a lot of elk 50 pounds. That's a lot of and it. Light accuracy arrows. Over poundage is kind of my philosophy. Like if I'm more accurate, you know, shooting at 65 as opposed to dialing my bow up to 75, then I'm going to shoot at 65. Yeah, 100%. Like, why wouldn't you know? Right. Some of people just comes down, it's like this complex or their ego. Like, if you can do both, though, it's a win-win, if you can do both, then do both, for sure. 100%. But if you need to choose one or the other, then you don't want to be overbowed, especially like when I'm working with women, too. And if they're having a really hard time just standing in front of a target and pulling however much weight back, I try to explain, you might be sitting in a tree stand, and sitting and pulling a bow is a whole different thing. Right. Or when you get an animal in front of you and your adrenaline I've even had times where I'm like trying to get my bow back, and one of the times might have been in Africa, and my PH is like, what the fuck's wrong with you? I'm like, I'm just nervous. Leave me alone. But yeah, so you don't want to be overbowed. That is not a good thing.
Yeah, I think there's a big, I even still get it with elk today, especially if they're bugling and it's a bull or something. Like I start getting that like, oh, wait a minute, I got to remember to breathe to actually get my back tension to go off. You know, like that sort of, there's a lot of adrenaline that goes through your body.
Yeah, there is.
And I could only imagine on those African hunts too. Like that's the next level. Like,
yeah, I really I went and saw Joel quite a bit before just to, cause get my refreshers on my shot IQ stuff, because I do a lot of self-talk before I even pull my bow back. A lot. Like when I know, like even if I'm sitting in a tree stand and I can see an animal coming in, I start talking to myself immediately. And I don't know if that's normal. I don't know if that's being a woman, or I don't know if that's just me, but yeah, I just like keep it together. You're going to go through your shot process, like just building my confidence and keeping my nerves low.
You just nailed it right there. For me, if I'm not confident in archery or in the right mindset, I'm going to shoot shitty.
Yeah.
Like there's a bit of arrogant, I can't say that word, arrogance that comes with like, or confidence. It's kind of a borderline that comes with archery. Like you have to think you're going to be a good shot, and kind of going back to that subconscious aiming thing. It's like,
right. You can't
this is where I'm going to put the arrow.
Right. Yep. You can't let that take over, because then, you've lost all control over your shot and pretty much what's going to happen. So yeah, I always tell people, and that was with my Cape Buffalo. That's what I did, talk myself into staying calm and keep your shit together and don't screw this, especially when people's lives are at risk. Like it's not just me that could die. It's my PHs that could die, who I'm good friends with and care about. And I don't want to see anyone get hurt. So yeah, high stress situations.
If you're not checking out the Mountainside Podcast on YouTube, you absolutely should be. If you like the content that we create here and you want to help support the podcast, please take a moment, subscribe to us on YouTube, and hit that notification bell. So what else is on the Big Five list, and what all of you hunted?
So, well, just the Cape Buffalo and then the lion this year. So then it's the leopard, the elephant, and I think the rhino maybe.
Would you do an elephant with
That's what would be hard. I don't know if I could shoot an elephant.
Yeah.
Just like I can't shoot a giraffe. I'm a pretty cold-blooded killer. I can shoot pretty much anything and be okay with it, but I couldn't shoot the giraffe. There was one that would come to the ground blind every day that we were at, like, I think my first year hunting. And it's kind of like when you have like, if
they're
you're
almost like a dog.
Well, and they scare the animals away. So he's like, we need to get the giraffe out of here. And he's like, do you just want to shoot it? And I was like, no. And then finally, after like day 2 of it being there, he's like, I won't even charge you. Just shoot the fucking thing. And I was like, I can't do it. Like, they're just such neat animals. And yeah. So same thing with an elephant. I think that's part of being human.
Like I still get emotional when I shoot elk or deer.
Yeah.
Like, it's
100%.
not like a bloodthirst thing for me, for sure.
Yeah, I think I'd have with an elephant, that would be hard. Even the lion's going to be hard for me.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Such a majestic animal,
Yeah,
like I even feel the same way about like wolves and everything. Like it's just like they're such a badass animal.
Yeah, and then you watch like those Discovery Show channels where you see them with their families and how they interact, and like they're human, like how we could relate to them on certain levels, taking care of their young and having their prides where they look out for. I mean, yeah, you just start applying these human characteristics to them, and then it makes you feel bad when you go, damn it. And that's how it is with elephants. I feel like they're such intelligent. I feel like the more intelligent the animal is too, the harder it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if I'll make the
there's
Big
nobody
Five.
hunting gorillas or chimpanzees. I don't think, unless they're like.
I will tell you a story
will
about my husband. He shot a baboon in Africa.
That's a different story, though.
No,
Those things are fucking mean.
But it
right?
fucked him up because he shot and this is a man that kills people for a living. He shot this thing, and he said he shot it in the chest, and I don't know how many yards it was. Hopefully he's not mad at me for telling this story. And he said this thing just like grabbed the arrow like dramatically, and just like looked at him like, you shot me, man, and was like trying to pull the arrow out, and it fucking wrecked my husband, dude. He's like, never again will I shoot a baboon. And I was like, damn, yeah, that's pretty hardcore. To have to see that. So yeah, I understand.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Ruthless.
Yeah, that's a rough one, especially
Yeah.
like when they have those human characteristics or traits, and like all animals kind of do, because we are animals ourselves. You
Yeah.
know? Like,
Right.
yeah, I guess it's one thing if, yeah, I don't even want to go down this road.
Are you talking about shooting humans with bows? No.
Yeah, no, but chimps are just like vicious. If you've ever seen,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
they're cannibals.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
they
yeah.
are fucking
They fuck each other up. The other
vicious. So
yeah.
don't think that they won't fuck you
No,
up.
they-
You know
they
what I
are.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's pretty wild. All right, so how long are you in Colorado? And you came out here to see us. Thank you for
Yeah.
making the trip. It's
Yeah,
super
thanks for
badass.
having
What's
me.
on the agenda? I'm sure it's not just us.
I'm gonna go see Luke. And we're probably gonna podcast. I don't know if we're gonna do that today.
yeah.
I'm gonna try to win some money from him. Luke and I like to make bets. He's one of my favorite people. I love
Yeah,
that guy.
I do too.
Always in high spirits, always fun to be around, always makes me laugh. Like we talked about, the Best of the Best got canceled. That was a bummer for me. That's one of my favorite shoots, and that's out here at American Bowman. So I was like, hey, I'll still go out anyways. And we got a shoot, and now we're doing the podcast, and I'll go see Luke, and then maybe go try to see Tom at Rocky Mountain Specialty
Absolutely.
Gear and fly home. I've been gone a lot lately, and I don't think I have any more trips coming up until Africa. And then once Africa starts, it is just one thing after another.
How long are you going to be over there? Like
Only
until
for like 7 days.
Okay, so
That's what-
is the tag only good for 7 days, or
No, that's just how long my husband can get off work to
Oh,
go. That's
gotcha,
why I
yeah.
was saying earlier, he can never get time off. And so these trips are pretty short if he goes. Now, if I was just going to go, it would be for like 2 weeks. So we're going to go there. We're home for like 5 days. Then we go to South Dakota for mule deer. I go straight from South Dakota to North Idaho for elk. I'll hunt elk for the remainder of September. Then I come to Washington and I'll hunt elk in Washington. I got a muzzleloader tag, so sometimes muzzleloading season's better. I shouldn't even say that. Just kidding.
Right.
No, sometimes you can downgrade in Washington, so I'll hunt with my bow. But during muzzleloader season, actually, the real reason why I do it is just schedule-wise, so that I can hunt in Idaho for elk and then still hunt elk in Washington. So that'll be beginning of October. And then I think I have an antelope hunt in Wyoming, whitetail hunt in Idaho later in the year, a cat hunt in Idaho in December, January. So I've got a bunch.
you got a lot?
I got a lot
lined
on my
up.
plate. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like to stay. Once September hits, I am usually in the woods most of the time.
It's so good for you though, like
Yeah.
mentally.
Yeah.
like it's my favorite thing to. I think that's why I still pursue it. It's not even
For sure.
actually like, the actual hunting. It's just being out there, excuse to be out there, excuse to disconnect,
Yeah.
and people know like that you're not getting a hold of me. during
Yeah.
this period of time, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you haven't heard, like my wife is the only one that's going to know
Knows where you're
I'm
at.
at.
Yeah.
And the only person I'm checking in with, and that's just
Yeah.
to let her know I'm alive, So
Yeah, I agree. I've found a way to do a bunch of different combination of hunts because I was the same way. I did a lot of solo hunting. Most of the animals I've killed, I'm by myself. But I started doing these group hunts where I find an outfitter and I say, hey, if I bring you this many people, what rate can you give us? Like, what discount can you bring us? And so I've been doing group hunts for a couple years. So that South Dakota hunt is a group hunt where we're bringing a bunch of people. Now, we're not all going out in the field as a big group. We're still going out individually with our guides, but it's still cool at the end of the day to regroup back at the lodge and talk about the hunt and watch other people be successful. So I have some group hunts, and then I have hunts with like my brother or someone really close. There's not very many people I'll hunt with one-on-one. My brother's one of them. And then my daughter, like taking my kids out. So that's rewarding in its own way,
Yeah.
taking your kids hunting, and then some solo hunts. Usually elk in Washington is my solo hunt that I do. And there'll be times I'll even go do an elk camp and I'll be up by myself for a week and not come home. And same thing. My husband knows how to get a hold of me, and that's about it.
So I kind of lied to you today. I was like, yeah, I never leave Colorado. I never have any desire to leave Colorado other than elk hunt, like elk hunting. But I think a blacktail would be an incredible hunt, and Roosevelt elk, because
Yeah.
I love elk. Like
Yeah.
you saw how excited I got today at foam elk,
At the
right?
at the foam.
And now you just ruined me for tax. So now I got to go shoot the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation
Yeah,
course.
you do need to go do that.
Have you hunted both of those species? I'm sure you have, like growing up in
Well, yeah,
Washington.
that's all we have where I'm at is blacktail on the west side
Okay.
and Roosevelt. So I've never shot a Rocky Mountain elk before.
Really?
I've shot
That's very unusual for elk hunters.
6 Roosevelt elk, 6
Wow.
Roosevelt bulls. Yeah. So, but yeah, no Rocky Mountain. So I've actually hunted Colorado. I came to Colorado a couple years ago, and my buddy, I hunted with Ben and a guy named Chase and my other buddy, and it was a crazy hunt. I got my ass handed to me. And they're all CrossFit athletes, like major CrossFit athletes. Like one of them owns a gym. Well, and Ben might too, I don't know. But Kurt, the main guy that invited me, owns a gym. And I'm coming from sea level. And I think we got up to like 10,500, 11,000 feet. And they live here, so they're used to that. And then I'm the only girl trying to keep up with these guys. And I think I did a pretty damn good job. I mean, we hiked in, I think 7 miles, and I had a 55, 60-pound pack on my back, and I kept up with them. But it was fun chasing elk. We were an elk every day, and we had a lot of pretty close opportunities. But that, besides Idaho, it's the only other state I've hunted elk in.
It's hard here. It's a lot harder than people think. There's
Oh,
a lot
yeah.
of people that are like, I'm going to go elk hunting in Colorado because it's over the counter. And boy,
I don't, yeah.
do you see some disappointment?
Yeah.
Like I talked to a lot of hunters during the season, just even the spots that I go into, because that's one of the things with it, the influx in people hunting and just the influx in people in general. I still think it's only 1% of the population that hunts. But as the population grows, that 1% grows too.
Right.
So as a kid, like we used to draw like units right here out of my back door every year. And now it's like a 7 or 8 year process. So it's like,
Yeah.
I'm looking at the timeline of like, okay, when can I keyhole this in, and strategizing preference points so I can get in as many hunts as I possibly can while my son is in. When
Right.
I think that he's in his,
Yeah.
you shouldn't have to strategize
You shouldn't have
that
to do
way,
the guessing
right?
game.
Like,
Yeah.
it's like,
It's gotten bad.
and that's if everything stays the way it is. So it's like at some point, I'm not going to be able to be out chasing elk at 70 years old.
I know.
You know what I
That's
mean?
crazy
Like
to think.
probably not. Like, yeah.
Scary to
So
think.
it's like you got to think about that a little bit. Like that's the crazy thing about it. But I hope that we keep the over the counter stuff at least, because that
Yeah.
gives you an opportunity to go into it over half the state,
Yeah.
on a regular basis.
Yeah, and Washington's over the counter too. It's expensive as hell for non-residents. I don't
Is
know
it?
what it is compared to Colorado. I mean, it's at least 800 and something.
Well, how big is the
bucks.
Roosevelt elk population? It's not like Colorado's
it's gonna
elk population,
no,
right?
it's
I
not.
mean, it's
No,
like
it's not. And
probably 10%.
They're a
of
lot harder to hunt too.
Are they?
Yeah, and so they are going to be bigger bodied, but they have smaller antlers. Yeah, and I mean, I don't know all the differences between them and Rocky Mountain, but I don't think they have as big of a range. That's for sure. When you're hunting them, they're a lot easy to pattern, which is why I've been so successful, because I'm hunting in places that I've hunted my whole life. And the elk, like I said, they're not going very far, and they're extremely easy to start patterning, to the point where I can tell you what trail they're going to be on at what time.
Do they rut the same way as Rocky Mountain?
Yeah,
elk do?
pretty
Like-
much. But I still don't even think they travel as much during the rut. That's the hard part, though, is you can pattern them, but then you get a million people in the woods pushing them around, and then they're unpredictable.
You almost have
So
to use
it
those
doesn't
people
even
to
matter.
your advantage here.
Oh, I do too.
yeah.
I do there. I mean, it's funny. There's this one place that I grew up hunting since I was 11 years old, and I started going out hunting by myself. And it's amazing how many people I'd run into, always men. They're like, what the hell are you, this girl doing out here, But now the locals, they know I hunt out there. But there's like one access point. There's like the road, and then we're at the gate where everyone parks, and everyone does the same thing. They all walk together, all fucking 20 of them, the same area. Well, what do you think happens? Well, the elk get pushed. So what do? I take a completely different way. I get there. These guys also don't like walking in the dark. You'd be amazed how many people won't walk in the dark. Yeah. And I have lots of stories where I've shot elk because I'm in the dark and they won't be in the dark, which I'm not saying I like it either. I fucking hate it. I'm not like some badass. It's not fun, but it's sometimes what you have to do. So beating those people there and getting to the back of that area and waiting back there. And then when all these people push the elk, and then it's funny later in the day when they find you, well, I didn't see you. I didn't run into you. How'd you get back here? Dude, I've been back here for 6 hours while you idiots were pushing the elk to me.
3 days.
Like you literally have to strategize. And like there was a couple years ago, actually Joel came up and helped me pack this elk out because I was by myself and I did elk camp in a place that's fucking gnarly to get to. No one wants to do it. And I did it because I knew that there was elk up there and I was staying up there. And there was, I think the first morning I went out and it was just starting to get daylight and I ran into someone and it was like this younger kid that was in his 20s. And he's like, how the hell did you beat me up here? And I go, I'm staying up here. And he's like, you're staying up here? And I said, yeah. And he said, by yourself? I said, yeah. And he said, fuck that. He goes, do you know how many cat are up here? And I said, yep, it's the first animal I get on my trail camera when I put trail cameras. There's a shit ton of cats up here. And he's like, well, have you seen one in the woods before? And I was like, no, that's probably why I'm not scared. And he's like, well, I'm a logger and I've had a lot of run-ins with cats and I ain't fucking around with those things.
You can't hunt them in Washington,
You
right?
can. Oh, yeah, you can. But he just didn't even want to see one.
Yeah.
And we have our bows, too. We're not carrying guns with us.
Right.
And so anyways, the area was not a big enough area.
Well, I don't even think, like, people that think that they're carrying a 10 millimeter Glock into the woods.
That's not even.
It's a false sense of safety
Right.
because any cat that's going to attack you is not going to be running down a trail at you. They're probably coming out of a tree and from behind you.
Yeah, you're not going to know what's happening until they're on top of you.
Yeah.
So the area wasn't big enough for both of us to hunt, and he knew that, and he's like, well, I'm not willing to stay up here. I'm fucking, to be honest with you, I'm too scared, and you're gonna be up here, so I can't get up here to beat you. So this is now your territory. And I was like, yeah, it looks like it. And I said, I'll keep in touch with you, and if I shoot something, I'll let you know, so then you can come up here and hunt. I knew who he was. I said, he was a younger kid. He was a good kid, and so he stayed out of the area, and I ended up shooting a bull up there, and then I got a hold of him. But I mean, I guess the point was that I was getting to is that I was willing to do something out of my comfort zone that someone else wasn't willing to do. And I think a lot of times you can be successful just doing those things.
I've had probably 80 to 90% of my success because of that very reason.
Yeah.
When it comes to elk hunting and hunting public land.
If there's a lot of people.
If it's private land,
right,
it's totally different. But not very many people have that luxury.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of have to out-hunt the other people out there.
Yeah.
Outsmart them and do some things they're not willing to do.
And guess what? The elk are going to go wherever those people are not. So
right.
That's kind of like those deep, dark holes,
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever had a problem where you've had an elk down or something and had a cat try to claim it or
no?
Gone?
I've gotten really lucky. I've retrieved all my elk within 40 yards of where I've shot them. Do
you guys have grizzlies in Washington?
Black bear. But guess what? They're going to reintroduce some grizzlies for us. They just passed that like a couple weeks ago. Wow. Yep.
I guess we're getting Wolverines here now too, is what I heard. So
just can't keep up with it, man.
I don't know.
It's getting wild.
I don't understand the playing God a little bit. I just found out yesterday that Colorado is now cloud seeding.
What does that mean?
So they're making their own rainstorms like Abu Dhabi does, to help with fire mitigation. Have you heard any of this, Derek? Yeah.
For a long time.
Do you know much about it?
Doing it. I mean, I've looked into a lot of the patents on it. And it's just mind-blowing to me how many there are.
And how are they doing it? From commercial jets?
Yeah. And they pay these
So
guys
is it something that's in the fuel?
So the amount that they put out is how much they're getting paid. And so they can just go and put out as much as they want whenever.
What?
And that's how they're getting paid.
Oh, wonderful.
That's crazy.
It's pretty nuts.
So does that explain because I feel like in June, July, those tend to be our naturally rainy months, but it seems like into August, is some of that due to clouds? Do they have like certain times of the year that they...
That I'm not completely sure about. But it has been raining a lot more here than what feels like normal.
Yeah, which is almost kind of a double-edged sword. Like when we need it is kind of like that August, September, because if it rains a bunch now, the grass grows really tall, but then it dies really fast.
Yeah.
And then it's just a huge fire hazard.
Yeah, I bet.
Like it's unbelievable. So it's like, I would hope that somebody is being very strategic about it if they are doing it. But like,
You think they'd have to report to the public? There has to be somewhere where you can go see when and where they're doing it. That's crazy.
I doubt it.
Sneaky
really
bastards.
yeah. Or even if it's like, part of me thinks is like, is this just a money laundering thing? Is it even real?
Who knows with our government?
Is this fucking real or not? You know,
you
like,
always got to ask
really
yourself
controlling weather. Like, I don't know.
Because there's lots of conspiracy. Well, I don't like saying conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, I don't either.
But there's people that think like that we make our own earthquakes. Like even that big earthquake in Taiwan that they just had. Like, oh, that was man-made. I mean, there's all kinds of people that think that we go to extreme levels to manipulate our atmosphere and
you never
environment.
know.
And
There's cause and effect, though. If they're gonna start doing that, it's gonna cause.
It's just like the villain.
Something else
domino effect. Something else they'll want to do, and then. Yeah.
The thing that I don't understand is it's all like what we've learned in comic books. Like this is not a good education, but like all the villains have some sort of power to cause
to control those
destruction,
things.
right?
Yeah. Right. And now that's our government.
Yeah. It's just it's mind blowing to me. But on the biology side, like I just feel like we are not listening to professionals. And is Washington?
No.
Like, is Washington taking a lot of their wildlife management to the ballot box just like every other state has?
Yeah, not only that, but the people that are on our board for, the wildlife board are all...
Like the commissions?
Yes, the commission board are all just a bunch of liberals from the city who have never set foot in the woods. So they will have biologists come in and scientists and do their presentation and give them the numbers and give them the recommendations on what they should do, and then they do the complete opposite. It's like, why are you even asking these people to come in and they're just doing the dog and pony show of, oh well, we brought them in and heard what they had to say. Yeah, but you didn't listen to any of what they you didn't take their advice. So
which it's
like
a
shit show.
I hate to say it, but if you start looking at the underlying things behind it, it's like if you take away people's freedoms to go get their own food, then you have more control over a person. You have more control over them if they don't have a weapon, right?
They become dependent on the government.
And why do you need a weapon if you're not hunting? Like there's that whole like, it's just this like kind of cause and effect and control and effect, right? Like type thing. So I think we need to be very careful. It's like, yes, I don't want to see trophy hunting. I don't want to see poaching. I don't want to see any of that sort of stuff.
Right.
And I don't want to see animals treated inhumanely.
Right.
And no bow hunter does, really. 99% of them are good people
Ethical,
that care about
moral,
animals. Yeah. So I don't know. I try to be as openly talk about it. Although I'm not trying to be a professional hunter or anything like that. I just do it for my own pleasure and my own substance and my own values and my family's values. I think there's a lot of value in hunting and seeing, just like the experience that your husband had with that baboon. Like that's life-changing, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. And even like my kids too, and the experience it's giving them, and just being able to show them from start to finish, like this is how we get our meat and this is what we're eating.
There's a ton of appreciation, adversity.
Yeah.
There's
a lot of things.
It's really eye-opening.
Yeah.
Okay. So real quick, we're kind of burning through the time. If you got a few more minutes to spend with us, we're going to wrap this up here pretty quick, but I think that this is super important. There's not very many females that are in this space. What you're doing, there has been in the last 5 or 6 years, there's definitely a lot more now. Like your Katie Knights and yourself, and there's so many females that are out there hunting and trying it now. What kind of pushback have you gotten from men specifically in this space? Have you had any negative interactions in what you're trying to pursue and like trying to go after these big five, and then me inviting you out to the archery range and you out shooting me today? Like, Have you had any negative stuff happen to you, or is it, for the most part, has it been pretty? Because the stigma is that women aren't accepted in this sort of sport, right?
Yeah, definitely. And no, I definitely think it's getting better. I think there is actually a lot of support for women. I would say there's more support than not. From personal experience, I haven't had a lot of negativity. I would say it's mostly been centered around elk hunting. And I don't think it's because I'm a woman. It's just elk hunting in general is fucking cutthroat. And there seems to be a lot of jealousy behind it. And it seems like if you are a successful elk hunter, like people come up with all kinds of stories, or, you know, like I would say that's where I've gotten the most hate, is specifically with elk hunting. But like I said, I don't think that has to do with me being a female, because I see other people get hate that are males too.
Yeah, talk to Cam.
I mean, Cam gets hate. Dan, you know,
right.
Dan gets, I mean, anyone that's a successful elk hunter is going to get some hate. Other than that,
I even get hate, and I don't do any sort of photos, grip and grin, nothing.
Yeah.
Like, I think I've shown like me preparing it before, but like,
yeah. I mean, once in a while I'll get some keyboard warriors talking about like my form, which is really funny. But yeah, because how I pull my bow back, I don't do it the right way. I do a crossbody draw, and I know that's not the right way to do it.
I don't even know if I pull mine right or not.
I'm fully aware that's not the right way to do it, but it's funny how many people. Or I had someone comment the other day because my fingers were closed in, and it maybe looked like I was gripping the riser, but I wasn't. But your fingers are supposed to be sticking straight out. So I'll have people come and nitpick things. But once again, I don't think that's because I'm a female necessarily. I just think there's always those keyboard warriors that want.
And I think you have to be open to that. That's going to happen the moment that you decide you're going to have a social following.
That's what comes with it. You better be thick-skinned if you're going to be putting stuff out there. Or just ignore
it altogether. I mean, that's kind of what I've been doing. Is just like, fuck it. I don't even care. Because my initial reaction is I want to justify myself and stick up for myself, right?
Right. Well, of course, that's anyone's,
But it's bad news if you start doing
that. Because it just turns into a back and forth, and it doesn't look good. And I've really had to learn to do that too, because I'm the kind of person who wants to, I wouldn't say that I'm naturally combative, but like I don't start stuff with people, but if you come at me, like I'm definitely ready to, go head to head with you. So it's been hard for me to like rein that in and just ignore it and know that it's better to do that.
And if you give people, you're giving them a platform by having a social media page and a comment section. Like it's a platform for anybody.
And some of them just bait you, where they put stuff out there because they want to get that reaction.
Yeah.
And my husband's pointed that out. He's like, think about these men. They're not, go look at their profiles. They're not getting attention from women. So and they know that might be the only way to get attention from you. They can't hit on you. You're married, and they know you're not going to like respond to that. So maybe they can insult you and get you fired up and get you having a back and forth conversation. Like that's a weird way to, you'd have to be pretty fucked up. But I've seen enough where I'm like, God, he might be right. So I'm like, no, I'm not even going to give you the time of day and reply back to you. And then I think the other side of things is, it's hard as a female, where I've been doing this my whole life and I am truly passionate about it. And I think if you know me or you follow my page long enough, I try to make that apparent. And there's been a lot of females that have came in over the last few years because they see that they can get popular if they pick up a bow, or, they're doing it for the wrong reasons. It's like they just want the follows and the likes.
Yeah, and this is something that this is a great point for anybody, because I think I've even seen this on the male side.
True.
I don't even think
some
it's
men
female.
are just as bad. Yeah,
like I know a ton of guys that, and the 90% of them show a general interest in archery until they actually try it or try elk hunting. Right? In general, I don't think people realize how hard it is. So I think, to get into this, if you're getting into it for a show reason, or because you've heard somebody talk about it, or because Cameron Haynes is super popular and you love what he does, I think that's great. I think try it, but I really urge anybody, before you go and spend the money or wound an elk or hurt somebody else or anything, is like, make sure that this is like you have to have a deep passion.
Right.
To suffer. There's
a lot of suffering involved.
With bow hunting specifically.
For sure.
And you know what? I don't knock anybody that just has a bow and just wants to shoot a bow. That is one of the most therapeutic things that I've done, short of like jiu-jitsu or something. Like I'd consider archery as a martial art almost, right? Because of the you have a shot mantra. Like,
yeah, right.
Most martial arts have a mantra. Like there's something that's very therapeutic about just shooting my bow, especially going to the range by myself. I had a blast with you today.
Yeah.
But I love going by myself just as much. Like, because it gives me time to work through whatever's going on in between the targets. And then when I'm on target or pin on or whatever, I'm not thinking about anything else. It's like a moment to just clear your mind and you can't think about anything else.
Right. Yeah, no, you definitely can't now if you want to shoot good. Yeah, I agree with that. But I do, that's the first thing when people ask me, what kind of bow should I get? I'm like, well, are you wanting it because you're going to go hunting with it? Or are you just wanting to shoot in your backyard? Like you got to figure out what you want to do with your bow. So, but it's good to see a lot more people getting into it. But there's always going to be haters.
I encourage people to get into it too, especially if you have a passion for it, because it is so rewarding, and it gives us a bigger voice as a community to help preserve it.
Yeah.
I know I get bashed for this all the time. Like you're giving away great spots, and you're gonna, I don't ever say specifically. Unless I'm calling out like American Bowman, like, yes, go try that place out. Go to an archery shoot there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that I think we should be welcoming as a bow hunting community too, whether it's women, kids, whatever race. Like, I don't think we have to be exclusive. And I even see like fighting within the hunting, like, well, you're a rifle hunter and I'm an elk hunter, and this is a upland bird hunter, it's like,
there's a lot
nobody's
of that.
good enough for anybody. It's like, we need to collectively come together.
I agree. Yeah, we're very divided. That's one way that the anti-hunters have us beat, is they are more unified.
Right.
Yep, and that's what gets us every time. So I see that a lot on social media. It's unfortunate, or even just like the type of hunting you do. Like someone wants to I've gotten shit for that, like high fence hunting. Like I go to Texas, like especially when I got my recurve. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna take the first year that I recurve hunt and go try to shoot a Roosevelt elk. It's already hard enough. I'm not confident with it. I don't want to wound it. Probably not gonna try a blacktail either. So I'm gonna go to a target rich environment where I can shoot hogs, I can get some experience, and I got shit for that, but the thing is like I do all kinds of hunting. I go do elk camp by myself on public land for a week. I might go do a high fence, hunt for one time. And like there was one year my husband was gone and I didn't have the luxury of going out and doing all my public land hunts that I normally do because of how time consuming they are. You have to spend 10 days in the woods before you're going to shoot an elk. My husband's deployed. I have kids to take care of. I have businesses. I want meat on the table, so I'll fly to Texas. I'll shoot some axis deer and a whitetail and some hogs so that we have meat to eat. But God forbid, like it was a high fenced hunt. So so you're always
here's the deal with it too. Is I think the problem with that is there's not a lot of people that are successful in hunting. Like the success rate is not good. Like for every time I've been hunting, if you looked at it from a percentage standpoint, like maybe 20 to, and I'm being very gracious, like 30% of the time I've been successful on all the hunts that I've been on, right? Like whether it's small game, whatever, turkeys, upland birds, like, you're not always going to have that success. So if you have the luxury of going to a tiger rich environment, not everybody has that luxury.
Yeah.
But then the other side of it is we have this influencer community now, especially in this space. And I don't always feel like those people, and especially when it comes to like television hunting shows, are portraying everything that happened. It would be be a 7-day show.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Right. They create unrealistic expectations for people that don't know what hunting is, and they see that, and then.
So I think people have been duped, or people aren't 100% truthful that like, hey, this is a high fence hunt. Like,
Yeah.
so I think as long as you're being transparent with it,
right.
then
And that's what I always
shouldn't
said.
get any shit.
I didn't
That's
hide
like to
this.
each his own, right?
Yeah, right.
Are those same people going to In-N-Out Burger and waiting in a drive-through line to get their meat served to them? Or are they, like,
Yeah.
what's the difference?
Yeah.
It's, to me, when it comes to that. So
Yeah.
it's like, it's what you prefer. I mean, I even got some shit over the bison thing that we did through CU Boulder. It was an experiment, where it was stone tools only. The bison wasn't hunted with stone tools, which that's what I thought I was going to do. So I was like even more like crazy, but they put the animal down and then just, it was a lot of reverse engineering on stone
like
points.
testing to see him going in. And
and then they had us field dress and bone out and everything using nothing but stone.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. But
which
you got
was-
shit for that?
Yeah. In the name of science,
Yeah, gosh.
I also came home with 300 pounds of meat.
Yeah,
and
right. So you get the last laugh
the shit
there.
went right over my head every
Right.
time I was eating backstraps. So
I
I was
bet.
like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it just amazes me that people have that much time. That's always what I say. Like, you
Yeah.
have that much time on your hands. Like, I'm so busy.
Well, here's the
trying to
deal. Those
do other
people that are
shit in my
giving you
life.
shit like that, they're doing nothing. If they
Yeah.
have time to sit there, it's like, I'd rather get shit from somebody that is like, I would prefer to get shit from like Tom Clum. That's shit that I'm going to
but
listen
those
to.
people never will, and you'll
They
realize
won't,
that.
yeah.
Like, you don't see Cam Haynes.
And
or
if
any
they
of these-
do, they're doing it for your own good.
yeah, it might be
Right.
maybe you're friends with them and they're trying to
Right.
help you, but they're not going to just get on and randomly make some shitty comment to you.
Right.
And is what I realized is I started really taking the time to look at who was saying these things to me and go look at their profile. And another thing that I would bring up to some of them is that, yes, it is a man coming onto a woman's profile who he knows nothing about me, and he has the balls to say all this disrespectful thing. And I told my husband, I was like, let's go find this dude's wife. How about we go find his wife's page and you get on there and start making some comments? Well, he would obviously never fucking do that.
Right.
What real man would do that? But that's what I
That's
try
a
to
great point.
I try to put it in context for him. How would you feel if my husband just got on your wife's page and started talking shit? You probably wouldn't like it. Like, and you would think pretty poorly of my husband. Like, what kind of man is this? Well, you're that man. You get on my page and like leaving unsolicited
It's really
negative
just
comments.
a jealousy
You
thing.
know what I
right?
mean?
It
It's
is,
so
yeah.
weird. Psychologically, like, how do you get to that point where you're sitting there looking at something and be like, oh, I need to tell this girl this is how I feel about this. Do you really?
Yeah.
Like, what good did it do?
I
very
don't
strange.
understand it. So to bring it back to females and hunting, like what advice would you have for them if they are getting into this space? And maybe not even from like a social standpoint, like what's the best way to approach it? And what have you had success with? And are you helping yourself with some of that? Like didn't you say you did like a women's shoot clinic?
Yeah,
or
I mean,
something?
I would say to like definitely explore all the resources, because there are a lot of resources out there now just for women. A lot of us don't want to be taught by our husbands. That never works out well. Or just by another man. Like, some women feel more comfortable learning from other women. And so there is a lot of that stuff going on. Like the one I'm doing in June has everything. It's like hunting, skinning, trapping, all firearms. So I think they're going to have shotgun, pistol, rifle. I'm going to be doing compound, traditional bow, talking about like solo hunting, survival stuff. And there's a lot of those out there these days. And they can reach out to me personally, like through my Instagram. And then, just finding other women that you look up to locally and reaching out and seeing if I have a lot of women that have reached out to me, and I love helping other women. And just knowing that it's not as intimidating as it seems. That was a big thing for me. I've been hunting since I was 11, but I've only been doing archery for like 6 years. And part of that was because growing up, I didn't know any women that did archery. It was like my dad did it and my brother did it. And it was just such a stereotypical men's thing to do. Like, women could not do that. And that's what I had in my head. And it wasn't until I got social media and started seeing some of these women like Eva Shockey and some of these bigger accounts. And I'm like, well, shit, if they're doing it, there's no reason I can't try it. And so just having that confidence to know, like we all start from the same place. Even a man coming into archery is going to start at the exact same spot you are. So the only advantage some men might have over us is physical strength, but you only need to get to 40 pounds. I've shot enough shit at 40 pounds. You can do it, So, and then just finding, if you're wanting to get coaching, finding a good coach like I did, and, not developing bad habits, and someone that you can trust to help you grow.
Yeah, start with that for sure. And I urge people to definitely take advantage of outfitters or guides too, because you're going to learn so much in that time when, you could be making so many mistakes.
Yes.
Like, it's one thing to learn how to shoot a bow, but to learn how to hunt is an entirely different animal that's even 10 times as hard as just shooting a bow. But then you have to put all that together, right?
Yeah.
So
and some people are against having people do guided hunts right out of the gate, but I'm with you. I agree with it, especially because if you can at least be successful in your first couple years, that's going to help build confidence too. Where you go try public land on your own, especially in an area you don't know that well, it's going to be so long till that's where people give up. They're like, fuck this, this is impossible. But yeah, getting those basic skills and learning from a professional.
I was so fortunate that I had family members that
taught you how
awesome,
to do it.
right?
Yeah.
But I grew up in generations of bow hunters, right? Like, wow, Fred Breyer was like popular, right?
Yeah.
So like it goes generationally deep. So I was so fortunate, but not most people that are getting into archery have only been into it for a year or 2 years, or maybe they don't have any sort of guidance. So definitely go get some coaching. It's well worth your time and
knowing
money.
that people are willing to help. Like, I mean, everyone in the archery community is so helpful. It is such a good community. And there are a couple, like you said, there might be a couple shops. I've heard some bad stories about women going into shops. It really pisses me off. But there are more good ones than bad ones, for sure.
100%.
Yeah.
Definitely if you're in the Colorado area, Rocky Mountain Specialty Gear, No Limits, Bear Creek, they're all great. But especially Rocky Mountain Specialty Gear, if you're looking to get into some incredible coaching, I would start there for sure.
Tom's the man.
With Tom or any of the Clums or Jerry or Alex or anybody that's down there.
Yep, definitely.
Okay, awesome. What? So I'm sorry. When is this immersive thing happening? Where you're
the women's clinic, and it's Tana Grenda that's putting it on, and she actually puts on several women's retreats, mostly in Alaska. This is her first time doing it in
badass.
Idaho. I did one of her Alaska ones. It was pretty sweet. It is June. Gosh, I should know. June 10th.
It's super close.
It's coming up, and they might be. I don't know if they have any spots left.
I don't even know if this podcast will be up. It'll be up by June 10th.
I try to put stuff on my PNWHuntress.com website. It's right up there. I try to put different events that either I'm attending or that I'm helping with. And some of those are women's events.
Awesome.
I don't know how well.
So that was my next question, was where's the best place to follow you? Where's the best place to get a hold of you if you're interested in?
Yeah, Instagram. I don't really do Facebook, but Instagram for sure. And then like the group hunts that I mentioned, I advertise those on my website.
Okay.
And then the women's events I try to put up there.
PNW _Huntress.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so there, and then you have a website, and then I know you've had some television time, right? Doing some hunts? Or?
I dabbled in that, and it didn't go very well.
That's even harder than hunting.
Pretty awful experiences in doing that kind of stuff. So I kind of stayed away from that. I found that it took away from what I loved about hunting. I hate doing like this be real bullshit and reenact that. I mean, it's not authentic. I mean, there are ways to do it, and there are good shows that do it that way. But for me, it just took away from what I loved about hunting.
Yeah.
So I will do like some self-filming stuff, or if I'm with a guide, like they'll
Was
film.
Was today
my
all right?
kill
What we
shot.
got at American Moment?
No, that's fine, because he's not sitting there telling me what to do.
I was just worried we were going to shoot Michael today.
I know.
I was like, dude, I know you want to get the shot, but like, you got to stand behind me.
No, if I have someone follow me around with a camera, that's fine. But I'm not trying to do a big whole production.
Yeah.
You know, like I'll throw some reels out. I love doing little reels on Instagram, but I'll probably never.
Do you have a
full-blown
YouTube channel or anything?
No, I don't even have that. I probably should. That's always my requests.
Yeah, I would suggest, like, I don't think people realize, like, YouTube is the second largest search engine to Google, right?
Yeah, that's
like,
wild.
If I need to fix my car or anything, like,
you go
whatever,
to YouTube, yeah.
Yeah, and I've had ton of issues with them as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say, are they restricting stuff? Like,
they are when
deal?
Certain things. I think it's when people flag it, then they're trying to keep it. There's millions of hours of video that's uploaded a day.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's really YouTube. I think it's however they have their AI set up to traffic that right. And I'm super thankful it's there, because there could probably be some horrible shit that mine or your kids are seeing or something, right? Yeah. But yeah, I've had a few things, especially when we get political or start going down a political road, or there's a political agenda, and it's never on the side that you want to be on for YouTube.
Right.
For me personally, typically, because I have a hard time getting those people to come on. Like, I've had a hard time. Thank you for saying yes, by the way, because I've had a really hard time. I've reached out to a lot of different females that are in this space, and not all of them are comfortable with coming on a podcast. And the last thing I want is for somebody to be uncomfortable in this situation, right?
Yeah.
Because I want to have a good time.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that they see all what's entailed and everything like that too. But so it's nothing against any of them people, you know, any of those women specifically. But thank you for saying yes, man, because I'm like trying to shed a light on that a little bit. And you're so badass. I learned stuff from you today, right? Like the four, I know how to shoot at 40 yards now. I don't know why I ever need to know that, but especially on a groundhog. But
like you say, you just reach out and stab it at that point.
Yeah, no joke. But yeah, no, thank you for saying yes. And I forgot where I was going with YouTube. Yeah.
Right.
I encourage anybody that's on Instagram and trying to get into the space, like, start a YouTube channel, start it early, like, get that growth.
I should.
It is a way for you to make some money too. And it's, I don't know. I just think it's awesome. It's a great way to portray yourself without and be genuine and have it the way that you want it.
And Instagram's, honestly, I've been losing. I noticed all my stuff's going way down. Like, I'm shadow banned constantly, and they're changing.
We get it bad too.
I can't keep up with their algorithms. Like, I used to have it down, and now it's like I can't keep track of what they're doing.
You're crushing it though. You still got a good following.
Yeah.
You're doing good.
I have TikTok, but they are really strict on what you can post. So it's funny because I don't do TikTok at all, but I don't know if you know the story of me getting kicked off an Alaska Airlines flight for wearing a Trump mask.
No.
Okay, well, you'll have to look up that when we get off there. But it went viral, very, very viral. And so I had this, to try to expose Alaska Airlines, which I did a pretty good job of, I created a TikTok account, which I'd never had, and I posted the video, and it got like 16 million views. So I have this viral TikTok. I have like 100,000 followers on TikTok, but I don't use the platform. So it's funny, and my daughter, it drives her crazy because she's like, Mom, you have a viral TikTok. You know, the younger generation, they're all about the TikTok, but you can't put anything hunting on it. And I've tried. I've tried even just putting stuff of me, like, shooting an arrow, and you can see it's being shot at an animal, but it's not showing the animal getting hit. It's not showing it dead. I've even gotten that taken down. So I gave up on TikTok. So maybe YouTube would be the way. I'm trying to lead
by example. That's why we don't have one for the podcast. Like, I don't believe in TikTok.
Yeah, I don't either. But that's why I think it's funny
addicting as fuck. When we did have it for a minute, I was like, holy shit, man. Like, this is insane.
Yeah. No, I don't go down that rabbit hole. I spend enough time on Instagram. I don't
even with Reels. Like, I'm thankful for Reels, though, because, like, the Reels that we're creating get so many views, and it drives people to go listen to the podcast.
Right.
That
you need to do it when you're doing something like this, for sure.
So, and we're trying to keep like a punk rock mentality. Like, there's a ton of AI systems, but we're actually still like guerrilla editing
doing
these
it the
things.
Right way.
Yeah, trying to. So
cool.
All right. Sarah, this has been so much fun. Thanks for spending some time with us today. I had a blast with you this morning at the range.
Yes, thank you.
Go give Sarah a follow. Reach out if you're interested and you're a female and interested in getting into hunting, or just follow her.
I love hearing from people. I'll respond. People don't think that you think we have these big followings. We don't. We're not human. No, I love talking to people. I'll help you with whatever you need help with. So hit me up, and thank you for having me on and shooting. It's been a blast.
Yeah, you're welcome back anytime. I had a blast with you as well. Thanks, everybody,
Right.
for listening. Thanks for listening to the Mountainside Podcast. If you haven't had a chance to do this already, please take a moment, follow, like, subscribe, or rate on whatever platform you catch the Mountainside Podcast at. If you'd like some more information on upcoming episodes, safety tips, access to all of our affiliates, and all the badass discounts that we get here at the Mountainside Podcast, check out themountainsidepodcast.com.